do you want to handle the
Sure.
folks, bringing folks up?
And start the webinar. Hold on. I am going to, Rebecca, you're ready to be the, oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I got to find you. There you are.
We should both be co-hosts.
You're both co-hosts? Okay, hang on, hang on. Ah, got it. Host and yes, and hold on. Rebecca, I just lost you. Where'd you go? There you are.
Here, there we are.
There we go. Okay. You guys all set then?
Yeah, I don't know where my video.
Oh, Michael, you're on mute, hon.
Yeah, as long as we can bring people up and stuff, we should be just fine.
Okay.
We're all Zoom professionals here.
Well, but you know, I can tell. All right, everybody have a wonderful meeting.
Thank you.
And I will leave you to it.
Okay, thanks, Barbara. All right, let's pull up the agenda here. I had this out before because I need to read our usual speech. 3:11. Wow, can you imagine it's 3:11 already?
No.
Okay. Agenda for the Southborough Historical Commission meeting Thursday, March 11th at 6 p.m. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order. Wow, a year ago today. Yeah, tomorrow. Order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meetings Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, subsection 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Southborough Historical Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found at the Town of Southborough's website, southboroughtown.com. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting may do so in the following manner. Also again at southboroughtown.com/remote meetings. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite our best efforts, we will post on Southborough's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. So, called to order at 6:04. We're on schedule. Hooray! Okay, so has everyone had a chance to look at the wonderful meeting minutes by Mr. Dean? Anyone have any questions or comments? As usual, he's been his complete, thorough self. I'm hugely impressed. Thank you, Dean. Anyone else? Comments or anything?
No issues.
Wonderful
Okay,
job.
No,
Always. Yep.
All right, fantastic. So I'll take a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Okay, well, Kate and then Jim as a second.
I second. Yep.
Okay, Amanda,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Rebecca,
yes.
Annie,
Yes.
and Wyson says yes, so 6-0 approved. On to number 2, discussion of old battleground with Karen Galligan. Yay, Karen! Where is Karen?
I see 2 people, but not Karen.
She said she had a hard stop at 7, so I put her first.
No, she's not there.
Attendees.
She's not there.
These are the folks that are waiting for 45th Highland. I don't want to quite move on to the head of this yet, to 45th Highland before we have a chance to talk with Karen, because she has to go. So let's hang out and wait for Karen for a little bit. In the meantime, I'm going to move on to the last part of this about the complaints of the appropriateness of several flags flying in the old burial ground, which Karen did not want to participate in, which I now know why. So last week, I've received a number of phone calls from 6 people total, wondering why or questioning why the flag of various Southern regiments are flying in the old burial ground.
Oh.
One in particular is called the Gadsden Flag, which has been subsumed by groups of white supremacists. This is not anything particularly new. There was a 2016 New Yorker article about this. I honestly have never paid much attention to these flags. They're renewed every year by Sam Wynot at the Veterans Group. They do a great job. I have had problems with their location since we did the ground radar scanning and found out that they are sitting, 2-foot spears in the center of people's graves. When we did the radar scans, we learned that there were actually active burials under all of those sites. So those posts of those flags are literally embedded in the middle of people's chests, skulls, feet, whatever, that are buried below. Granted, they don't go very deep, but it just doesn't seem terrifically respectful considering that we know they were there. Those headstones were all lost during the hurricane of 1938. And in one of the great blows to historic preservation, the town, which was essentially bankrupted during the Depression, decided that it would bury all these headstones in the new burial ground and then totally forgot where they put them. So they used them as fill along the marshy area in the back and lost them all. So they're all gone. Anyway, so I did some research into these flags that were flying. And let's see here. One is the Culpepper Minutemen flag from Virginia. One is the Gadsden flag from South Carolina with another similar variant, both now captured by white supremacist groups. One is the Bunker Hill flag with a tree. Another is the Moultrie flag, another from South Carolina, and one is too tattered to tell. And on the main flagpole is flying a star, a set of 13 stars in a circle, which was a Naval Ensign flag. In looking at this, I don't know particularly why we're flying these flags, because they don't have anything to do with the folks that are buried in the burial ground. The Gadsden flag in particular is problematic. Not only was it, this issue of white supremacists, but it was also prominent in, South Carolina secession during the Civil War. So I don't think our Civil War veterans would be too excited about, seeing this flag flying. Granted, they're not in that cemetery, but anyway, so very innocently, I decided to contact Sam Wynot about these flags. He was very polite, very congenial, and adamantly opposed to making any changes. I said, fine, I understand that. I said, would you circulate this to the veterans and see what you guys think? Because, we'd like to figure out, sort of ways forward. And obviously he did, because Marty Healy called me this morning. We had quite a heated conversation. He called it a conversation. I called it something else. Let's just suffice it to say that we agreed to disagree about this. I mean, he was mostly upset about procedure, that, this should have been forwarded directly to the Board of Selectmen. I pointed out that we were still in the investigatory phase, and that is what we do, supervising, investigating historical areas of town, and that we would have reported, but when we had some consensus about what was going on. He said that, my conversation with Sam, I said it was a great conversation. Steve, was a great conversation. He said, you've mischaracterized it entirely. He said, those emails I've gotten are like white lightning. I said, I understand that. But on the other hand, I understand that we have residents that are complaining to us about these flags, and that there's a really logical way forward here, which is to hopefully move the flags, although I'm not set on that. I'd like to get them out of people's graves. But to fly the veterans' flags of the veterans who are actually buried in the old burial ground. In particular, there's a flag called the Continental Colors, which was the very first American battle flag. It was raised by George Washington, none other, in Cambridge in 1775, designed by a committee including Benjamin Franklin. And it is exactly the flag that the three people who died, that are buried died in the Revolutionary War and are buried there, would have seen and served under. And I thought that we could do some research and find out when the other veterans died, what flags they served under potentially, or what state flags, or not state, but what the Union Jack, the American flag, looked at like at the time of their death, because the flags changed substantially in the early part up to 1842. That was my suggestion in writing, and there we have it. I'm going to, I've already, but going to further just refer this up to the the selectmen, the people who complained to me, did not want to be personally named in this because they considered it a very volatile issue, and I now understand why. However, I think that there's just, regardless of whether or not you buy into the white supremacy meaning of these flags, it doesn't seem to me that we should be flying flags that are not appropriate to the people, the veterans that served. And since we know the flags that are appropriate, it would seem to be appropriate to choose those flags. That's all I have to say on that. And I'd like to move the poles out of these people's graves, especially because we're about to have this whole major renovation of the old burial ground with this new history path, potential new openings, and all the things that are going on there. So I just wanted to report that as to where we are on this. You can take a little, do a little research yourself on these flags, and if you'd like to formulate a recommendation for the Board of Selectmen now or think about it, either way, I've pretty much said my piece, and I hope that there's some really logical compromise here, because I think it's very hard for us group of white faces to understand what it is to be a person of color in this country. And when people say that there is a problem with an image, I'm inclined to listen because images have power. And I don't always agree, but I'm inclined to listen, and I hope that the Board of Selectmen will, and I hope the veterans also will really thoroughly consider all sides of this and just do the right thing. So that's my thought on the matter. You guys want to weigh in?
I just had a question. Is it, I think I followed most of that, but did Sam indicate, why not indicate that those flags are all associated directly with people that are buried there, or are some extra that might not have been flags under which they served? In other words, are they relevant to the people buried there, or are they extra?
From my research, they're completely extraneous to the people that are buried there.
What's the rationale for having them then?
This was done in 1995. I don't know. I was here in town at the time. I wasn't paying attention. I mean, the intent was great. I think it was to honor the Revolutionary War veterans buried there. They're all Revolutionary War battle flags, so to that extent, they have some relevancy. But they're not the Massachusetts, except one. They're not the Massachusetts battle flags. They don't refer to the soldiers that are served there. And some of them, like it or not, have very loaded iconography. So
These days, not at the time. The current iconography.
Currently, within the last 5 years or so. I mean, as I said, there was an article in the New Yorker in 2016 about this. That Gadsden flag was one of the prominent flags that was marching through the Capitol riots. It started as a Revolutionary War flag in South Carolina. It was also the flag that was associated with the uprising at Fort Sumter. So, I don't know. I think we're just choices of Revolutionary battle flags. I think the intent was great. I don't think anyone had any desire to offend or make any type of commentary. I just think that the times have caught up with the flags, and that's it. So
So like the last thing I'll say then is that maybe it is something we just refer to the BOS to decide on, and the frame of reference might be, are these flags that we would allow to fly on Main Street, for example? I understand it's an old burial ground, but maybe because it's town property, that despite the historical aspect of it, are they flags that are appropriate for display today in town? And let them just.
Yes, well, as Marty pointed out to me, that is ultimately their decision. So he didn't even feel that we should be discussing this. I personally, they didn't call him, they called me. And I think that from the general idea that people in town seem to feel that the Historical Commission has, overview and oversight of these places. We have investigatory oversight, but, the ultimate decision does in fact lie with the Board of Selectmen about all public disposition. No, I have no problem with that. It's just, I think that there's something they really seriously need to think about, especially in light of the historic evidence about these flags. I'm really fond, particularly of this, which I had not done any research about, this Continental Colors flag. Rebecca, do you have time to like pull that up and share your screen with that? It's a very nifty flag. It actually has the Union Jack in the small field and then the stripes. And it was designed in 1775 when they weren't quite sure that they wanted to go all the way to full independence, but they just wanted their own recognition. And Washington hoisted that in Cambridge, which I thought was really cool. And then again, his personal battle flag, which is really cool. It's 13 six-sided stars. Are you finding it?
While, Mike,
Describe-
while she's doing that, can you please list, you went through the list of flags very quickly. Can you please either list or send me the list of flags that were flying?
Yes, I can. What did I do? Flags.
Not sure if this is what you,
Dean, can you see the chat? Dean? I can put these in the chat. For,
Yeah, I got the chat. Oh, I don't see anything in the chat.
but nothing's there yet.
Oh, okay.
There.
is this what you are talking
Yeah,
about, Mike?
that's it. Yep. That is the it's called the Continental Colors, and it's the first flag that was hoisted by the American troops right here in Massachusetts. So it would seem to be really appropriate, particularly for the large flagpole. But anyway, my point is there are a lot of options on that. Does anyone else have anything they want to add to this?
I mean, I think I would like to, second your thoughts about finding something more historically appropriate for a historical space. And also something that isn't in modern context offensive or even politically charged. The flag, the Gadsden flag, is associated with a lot of different groups that are upsetting to some people. And I just think that in 2021, we need to be a little more sensitive to these issues and present, the fact that we're aware of this and concerned about this as a town. That's all.
Kate?
Well said, Rebecca. That's basically what I was thinking. Well said.
Annie?
Yep, nothing further from me.
How about Amanda?
I agree. I don't really have anything to add, but I agree with what was said.
Well, should we take a vote to recommend this, consideration to the Board of Selectmen? That they, look at the history of these flags and potentially, consider some other choices. Is that something we would like to recommend?
Yes.
Yes. Right.
One, Michael, they've been there since 1995, all those flags in the burial ground?
Seemingly. Again, I only noticed it when I tripped over one. A couple of the times that the smaller flags are just in the ground in these wooden pole things, and it had blown over and I fell over it. Yeah, I mean, they've been there since the big flagpole, at least, has been there since 1995. And, I don't know what the genesis of this was. I'm sure it was just to honor the veterans of the Revolutionary War. Whether the six flags have been there around this thing, they're sort of in a semicircle in the base as you come in.
And I can picture them, but I can't picture them specifically. So I was just wondering how long they've been there, and you got a lot of feedback about.
Well, the feedback was several points. Flag of Capitol riot, flag of white supremacist group, flag that are not, what is the just general criticism questions of why are we flying these flags that have nothing, what are these flags and why are we flying them? And finally, and one person pointed this out and I thought it was pretty clever. A lady called and said, You do know that half the people in that burial ground are loyalists, don't you?
That's true.
That they fought for Great Britain. You know, it's like, you know, so why are these flags flying for these people, about all the people that fought and died there for Great Britain? So yeah, I said, okay, it's true. And that's actually one of the reasons I really like the Continental Colors flag, because it's an intermediate flag. So in any event, so what is the consensus here? Do we want to?
Well, I suppose if, as the Historical Commission, if you've received feedback, then we at minimum just have to, we don't have purview over those flags is what I understand. But that as a Historical Commission, we might just want to express our wish that people consider the meaning of those flags, and if they're not going to be adjusted or changed or removed, just that we've at least shared our opinion, our feedback.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote to Sam, why not?
Steve, actually, his name is Steve.
Steve, I'm sorry, I'm calling him the wrong scent.
That's my fault. I called him Sam.
You did actually, and I was going to correct you, and then you sent me down the long thing. You know, what I wrote to him was, second, you know, I wrote to him about having them stabbing into the graves. And I said, secondly, as we discussed, several of the flags currently flying have been seized by white supremacists as their banners. And we've had a number of complaints that these flags should not be displayed on public land as they've become offensive to people of color. Equally relevant too, I think, is the flags don't pertain to any burials associated with the graves of the old burial ground, as they represent regiments from southern colonies, namely South Carolina and Virginia. It might be worthwhile to do a little more research on the veterans buried in the old burial ground and represent instead the actual flags under which they served. One suggestion in particular is for the Continental Colors flag detailed below. Another might be the personal flag of George Washington. Both would appear great on the flagpole, which, just to be clear, would be maintained where it is and given a fresh coat of paint. Amen. So if he failed to share this with the veterans, which obviously he did, and obviously they expressed their discontent. So, you know, I don't know. I just, I'm sorry anyone ever called me about this, because I said I really never paid attention to these flags. But you know, now that
I think it's important.
Well, it's important now that it's been pointed out. I mean, you know, you can be oblivious to things all your life, and you know, if enough people think about this, I think it is kind of important. What imagery are we saying as a town if we're flying arbitrary flags that a lot of people find really offensive?
Yeah, I think
you know, especially since it's so simple to fly other flags.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like we have a dearth of veterans flags that we can be flying. And this is not an anti-veteran thing at all. I, of course, never had a chance to serve because I was born in 1964. But, you know, my father was in the Italian campaign. My uncle was shot down on Christmas Eve over Germany in a B-17 bomber and served 2 years in a prison camp. My paternal grandfathers fought in World War I. My great-grandfathers fought in the Civil War. And my great-great-great, so many far back, actually were Hessians fighting for the British who decided to stay after the war. So, I'm not, this is not an anti-veteran thing at all. I just am trying, as I was trying to explain to Mr. Healy, who was much more concerned about process than he was the actual point. I mean, he was more concerned, more ticked off with me that we would consider this and not refer it immediately to the Board of Selectmen than he was actually with the issue, which to me is tantamount. But I don't know. Anyway, it's going to be a bag of worms. The selectmen are going to have to deal with it. We have no jurisdiction other than make a recommendation. I think personally that we should recommend that, you know, that they reconsider more appropriate flags that are representative of the people who are buried there. And that would be the motion I'd put out there. If anyone else agrees or disagrees.
If that's a motion, I second it.
That's a motion.
Second it.
I would say historically relevant and appropriate or something along those lines.
Rebecca, how about you and I work on the wording of the letter to the BOS tomorrow?
Okay.
Okay, and we'll put it in everybody's mailbox when we're done. Does that sound amenable to everybody? Okay, you're all nodding up and down. Okay,
Yes.
so we have a motion on the table to send a letter to the Board of Selectmen. Amanda,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Okay, and Weiss on yes, and so that's 6-0.
And
All
Karen's here.
right, so there's Karen. Come on
Yeah.
board, Karen. There she is. Hello. Hello.
Sorry, I thought meeting started at 6:30, so I apologize for that.
You be late.
I'm late.
It's okay. How is our favorite director of the
Okay.
Public Works? Whoop, you're
Considering
frozen.
I'm the only one, I'm fine. Oh, I have trouble on this one.
Okay. You're kind of frozen there picture-wise, but can you hear us? Oh,
Yes,
there you-
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, exactly. We can hear you. All right, so let's get started because we have a lot to talk to you about. The first thing is about the business of the stones. And Annie, do you want to bring us up to date on where we are on that?
Yeah, so I don't have a huge update from our meeting a couple months ago, but Michael brought up at to our commission that it seems that some of the stones in the old burial ground have deteriorated. We're not sure whether that is it's stones that were renovated or restored in the master plan work in 2018, or if it is new damage that has occurred since then. But we're at the point where we should move forward with our annual inspection. That was part of the CPC application maintenance plan going forward. My understanding is that there hasn't been an inspection done since the original work was completed. It should be annually, and now we're at the point to move forward with that process now. And there's just been some back and forth on what that looks like, the responsible parties, and all of that.
So Karen, from your last email, am I correct in sort of paraphrasing this in that you would like, you don't have problem with the budget, but you'd like some guidance on the contractor and how to do it and what to do?
Yes. So you can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you. Yep.
Okay, I just shut off my video. I think that works better. So yeah, I really don't know kind of what to have them look at and stuff. So even what you originally gave as a scope, we can work with that as, if I know they inventoried and, I kind of saw what the report came out as. I just don't know how to tell them what to do it.
Well, I don't think we have any problem, helping, contact those folks and, walking them through the process. So I think the first step would be to get them back here, right? And sort of, talk to them, find out what it's going to cost, get them back here and just do, they're supposed to do an annual assessment, and the assessment is a paid for thing. Annie, I'm asking you, but paid for by the DPW, but the other contractor does the assessment?
So in the CPC application, or the CPA application, it did say that the DPW had committed to cover the cost of an annual inspection, which was at that time, approximated at $200 per year. I don't know if that's still the going rate or anything, but it is expected that the DPW would cover that cost.
Okay.
And then in terms of the vendor, the application didn't really specify that. I would assume that the same vendor doing the inspection would be hired to do, any necessary work that is uncovered in the inspection, but it doesn't specify that.
Okay. So, I have no problem, calling the folks. Annie, do you want to work with me on this? Together, you and I we'll call the folks and then, take a walkthrough with them and, get their assessment. And then Karen, we can just have them send the bill to you.
Yeah, that would be perfect. And it's not, I can get as involved as you want, but I really am fine where this is really your guys' specialty for us just to say, okay, yep, we'll pay for that. you guys can figure out maybe what the scope of work is, and we can see if we can work it in the future. I realize that we should probably do this early so that if we do have some significant changes or things we need to fix, that we can look at either getting them in the budget or getting, or doing something. So it might to do the fix if it's more than if it's not very inexpensive, I guess would be the right way to put it. So, but if that's kind of just somebody walking through with the person each year is what you're looking for, or if you're looking for them to go through and do something, I just need to know what you want. And then I'm more than happy just to take the bill and pay it. If you guys want to take the reins, because it's your wheelhouse, but I'll do it.
We're happy to do that. Because I think we need to get a little more. Go ahead, Annie.
I just have a comment on that. So Karen, to your point, it probably is, as a commission, more our wheelhouse than yours, or your teams. But it is town property, it is town land, and I don't necessarily think. Oh, sorry. Outside of, I feel like it's a little bit outside of our purview as a commission to really take the ownership of this work. And so that's why in our email, I had proposed maybe using this year as an opportunity to really transition the relationship, and maybe have someone from your team, become more of an expert, or something like that, because it is town property. It is town land that, the town should be maintaining to an acceptable degree. So I'm kind of stuck in the middle. So again, I'm happy to help however I can. Clearly this is something we do care deeply about as a commission. But I'm very hesitant to say that the commission has responsibility for this.
Well, I don't think that's what Karen's saying. I think what she's saying is that, that if we give them the scope of work, they'll handle it to the degree they can. And that if we have to, and am I paraphrasing that correctly, Karen?
Yes, that accurate.
Yeah, I think it's actually fine for us to, and I think we should have a little more ownership of it, because unfortunately when our dear Kate Madison died, we kind of lost track of what happened, what was going on with that process. And I think, if we can just, if we could yearly walk through it with the specialist and have them indicate what they are going to need to do, what the town can do, what maybe a specialist contractor needs to do. I'd like to do that associated also, Karen, with the tree work there. I know you and I have talked about this. There's a lot of, there's a lot of problems there. And I know you guys are hesitant to get in there with any kind of machinery because of disturbing the graves, et cetera. And so maybe, these things can kind of go hand in hand together. Because I personally am really super concerned about the trees. There's just such an amount of tree work that needs to be done, and there's been no new planting there at all. So every year we're losing cover, and we need to think about how that can be addressed.
And so one of the I understand that, and that I like the idea of doing whatever we need to for the trees, and obviously I'm all in favor of fixing the headstones and all. But one of the problems that DPW has is we're responsible for so much that when there's something like the old burial ground that is very particular and specific, and the more help we can get from you, the more happy I am. So I'm thrilled if you guys, and if we had to go into like a planting program that we might want to get somebody to develop, I would be more than happy to, if it needed to be something that we had to have like CPC funding for, I'd be happy to support it and then help work with it. But for us to take the lead on a bunch of stuff, we just don't have the bandwidth because we really don't have a lot of office staff. We don't even have a lot of crew. We have a total of 13 people who work in the field, and then there's 3 people in the office. So it's just we don't have and we don't have a lot of expertise in certain things. So I would be more than happy to definitely talk about, meet people out there and look at stuff and see if we can come up with a plan of how we might get funding if we think we need funding, or what just to say, oh, no, I think I can get that done under the tree contract, whatever. But to have somebody actually look at that with me and say what they would like to do versus me coming up with a plan, because that's difficult. If that makes any sense.
No, I think that makes total sense. And I'm happy to contribute my time to do that, because I think that, I think I actually know something about trees. And so I think, be happy to work on that. But anyway, I'm just concerned about the work. I think what they're suggesting, what Karen's suggesting, is that we just, do the handoff to them or to the contractor and to get the appropriate funding. I mean, is that okay with you?
Yeah, so I would say I'm totally fine with that. And I want to be supportive of the project. I'm kind of also just relaying, kind of a similar discussion we had at a CPC meeting a couple months ago. Just kind of feeling like this is at this point, now that we've done the initial project, we've done the initial work, we invested the time and money in that, it's kind of like we already should have done the handoff. And it's gotten to the point where the inspections weren't done, et cetera, et cetera. So I just think we have to be very intentional about that handoff and potentially what it looks like in future years. I, as a volunteer personally, am not comfortable being like super involved in, making decisions on behalf of town property. That's just my personal take on it.
Well, as the Board of Selectmen will be very, very happy to remind you, they have the ultimate decision power on town property. So I don't think that we have to worry about that at all, frankly. But in any event, Karen, I think we'll figure that out for this year and then figure out sort of where the thing goes, future wise.
Okay.
Let's get a plan of attack, formulated. Let's get the contractor. I have no problems, Annie, with you to call the folks that we'd called previously.
Yeah, we have all their contacts.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll call them back down and then we'll just, we'll take it from there. I'm happy to take the lead on this because it's something I actually, kind of know something
And
about.
when you guys set up a meeting, we'll definitely, whether it's myself or grounds or whatever, we'll come up, we'll walk it with you to get an idea, but of kind of what you're looking at having them do each year. But I'm definitely fine if you guys are like, you know what, we want to walk it each year with the inspector and ask questions, and I just pay for that. That's fine, right? Because I might walk it, but I might not ask any questions. I'll be like, okay, yep, phone's ringing or whatever. Or I'm just not thinking about it the same, because I think of the cemetery, our active cemetery, right? So we see that, we know what's happening in there, and when we see problems, we have to deal with them. But at the old burial ground, we're actually not in there. We have a contractor who mows, so we're never actually physically in there unless we need to meet somebody.
Okay.
So we don't. That's why we don't kind of come across it. So if you force us to have a meeting there, it's good.
All right, well, that's good to know. That's good to know. All right, so I think that's fine. So what, do you have plans to share with us? Probably not tonight, but share with us about, what's going on with this history path and all the other stuff and sort of what the timeline for that is?
So at this exact moment, it's in flux because we opened the bids today and they came out higher than I expected. And
I could have told you that.
Yeah,
I saw the scope.
Well, the tight timeline too, I think, is just because even the asphalt stuff that's easy was just higher than I think it should have been. So with that being the case, I'm not sure what's actually going to happen. If I don't think it's a bad project overall. I just don't know that we can meet that timeline because we have to award it on Tuesday. And then they have to be done with all the grant money part by May 31st. And that's,
Whoa.
That's
so
right.
What
That's
happens?
why
We don't do it, we lose the money?
What?
We don't do it, we lose the money?
If we don't get that piece done by then, we would lose. Well, they won't pay it. So we're in a little bit of flux on how, I'm not sure how to handle this because overall I would like to have, I'm very uncomfortable with I'm not used to projects going this fast. Like this is very unusual for us, right? We usually have a lot of time to look at things. So I don't really even know, like the plans were still being made while it was at bid, right? Like, so like it went out to bid, and like that day that people could collect them was like the day they got finished. There were addendums right up to 2 days ago. So I don't know what I can pull out that still leaves the grant whole, but it doesn't affect the bid. So with the problems we have, I really unfortunately don't have a good update, except that there's a chance it might just become a more longer term project that we phase in through other means. And maybe we can get that, maybe we can still get the grant piece done, but we almost need to rebid that because it changes the scope of the work so much that it won't be a fair bid anymore.
Huh.
So we're in flux.
Well,
And I haven't.
that's kind of discouraging. I mean, are there finalized plans? So obviously they're bidding on some finalized plans though.
Oh yeah, no, we do have final plans, yes.
Okay, could you send us those and I'll share them with the folks? Because, we still haven't, last time I saw this, they were debating between some sort of park there at the end. And there was a question about some land transfer with St. Mark's and, other.
Right,
other
all that has to come together in order for the project to happen. Like, which St. Mark's is more than willing to, I mean, they're ending up giving us quite a bit of land full on to use. And we're licensing them just a very little piece to use. So they can enter their parking lot. Their parking area stays in almost the same spot. In fact, it actually is in the same spot. Our road moves. The key to this is we really need the road to move because we got rid of the puddle. But the grant gave us the opportunity to kind of make to get some money to make a nice shared space park. But I think the magnitude of the park or the work of the park, it's more than the money. And then the road ended up just being ridiculously expensive, which it shouldn't have been. So, like I said, that fast track is really tough.
What part of this was actually on the fast track? Was it the history path part of it, or was it the sort of the walkway portion of it, or was it
It's the gardens and the walkways. So it's different parts of the walkways as long as it had to work up to 290,000. That's what the grant was. As long as it's the gardens and the and walks, some walks, we could do that. Then the rest doesn't have to be part of that, but we don't really have enough money for the rest either. So
would it be possible to do just the walk portion of it and then work on the rest as time came by? Because I would hate to lose, take $250,000 off the table that's on the table.
I understand. I just you have to rebid. So it's problematic. That's all. So I've talked to selectmen about it and kind of see what we can see what their take on it is, because it's as is the project can't happen.
Is there any appeal to the state in the sense of, I understand that they want this stuff to happen, but we're also still in the middle of COVID, and I know how long it takes for the contractors. I know how also it's hard to have asphalt in this cold weather. I mean, there's a lot of variables about this. Is there any, give in the granting process that might potentially allow us to, to have a little more time for completion given the extraordinary circumstances?
I am not 100% sure that's something that the town administrator and I were going to look into tomorrow a little bit.
Okay. All right. Well, keep us posted, would you? Because if we can help you in any way, I'm personally willing to help you. I know a lot of folks in the asphalt business and other issues on that. I just this is such a great idea, and this money it's not going to fall out of the tree again like this. So to the degree that we can do in any sort of way, we're here for you.
Understood. Thank you.
I have a couple more quick questions about just various other items. So do you remember way back when in the Historical Commission, before I went to the penalty box, that we were talking about that little tiny stone that sat on the corner of 85 and Route 30 where there was a little marker stone? One of the mile markers for Knox. What happened to that?
That is still down at our yard. They're supposed to put it back in. I'm assuming they're going to put it in this spring because it's on the punch list of things that I have for them. I not 100% sure if it's going back in that same corner or because it's actually out of number from other ones that like I know they're supposed to like they're mile markers, but they're out of order for some reason. They must have been dug up before and replanted. So I'm not sure if it's going to be exactly there, or if it might be closer to the Henry Knox stone in front of the
Well, so that's not a mile marker. That's actually the terminus marker and marked the end of the state road. So where it is where it was. In other words, it said that the state road ended there.
that's what
i.e.
it,
85.
okay. You can't see anything on it really, so it's just like that's
Yeah.
fine. I could make it back to the same exact spot.
It should go back on that corner. The only reason we know this is that it was documented in 1906 in a narrative that says exactly what it was, that it was the end marker of the state road, and that, it went no further. So it probably should go back there in some sort of way, but I'm happy to work with you on that. And my question to them all through this process was more to the quality and craziness of the wall heights and the way these walls kind of go up and down and sideways, over the height of them is completely inexplicable over, the majority. I think I talked to you about this and you referred me to the state engineer. They referred me to nothing. And I mean, is that still on the punch list to look at that, why these walls wobble the way they do?
I did not know that had not been rectified, or at least that was still an up in the issue. So I'll have to find out if they didn't address it with you. I have to figure out what happened there.
Well, what happened was COVID.
Okay.
So I had this conversation back with them a year ago, and they said, we'll take a look into it, and then COVID occurred. But
Okay.
before that thing is closed out, it's just, the height over the run, the walls, at one point, it goes, particularly around the curve of that little house. It's like at 4 feet, it's at 4.5, it's at 4.6, it's down to 4. And then it resumes on the other side of the driveway at 2. I just want to know what the rhyme and reason and sense of these kind of crazy wall heights, because to my eye, from a landscape architecture perspective, what we're taught is that walls always start and end at logical places and heights. So, that violates every, precept of what was going on. So I presume there was some method to their madness, hopefully.
Well, you would hope, right? So yeah.
Yeah. So, but if you could ask before they pick up their pickaxes and leave town, it would be great to ask. And,
Okay, I'll definitely put that down to check on, see where we stand with that, and make sure it's at least understood what the heck's going on.
Great. So my final thing for you is more of a personal thing. It's like you guys are going to put some enclosure around those dumpsters behind the townhouse so that, when we do get back to the museum, we're not looking at those horrific dumpsters, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we have to, we plan on putting some fencing back there with the privacy slats in it.
I mean, is there any way we could do a little better maintenance in that part of the world? And I ask you because I had spoken previously with the Southborough gardeners and with the other folks in town, and there's certainly sufficient interest and certainly money to donate some plantings like lilacs and other things, to do that strip along the back there. To make it a lot more inviting. It had gotten, the maintenance guys dumped their grass and all their crap there, and the invasives had gotten in, and they were climbing up the tree and stuff. It would be really cool if we could, keep that cleared out, because I think we could, with some private investment, make that a really, really nice space.
That can be done if one of the biggest problems we always have is when and the Southborough gardeners do some beautiful work, but a lot of times we either need irrigation or we need some kind of extra work with it, and that can be and that ends up like kind of every garden. I kind of flinch and I say, oh, I hope it stays looking nice, because sometimes we can't get to them to keep them nice. But I mean, that would be wonderful. And as far as the one problem we do have is we would just want to make sure we had enough of an obvious spot so that when we push snow, we don't push it over onto all that. Like that tends to be an issue, obviously, where we snow.
Oh, how well I know.
Yes.
Well, so I think we're talking gardens in the sense of like flowers and things. What we're talking about is shrubbery and other kind of flowering things, you know, much in tune with what's going on there in general. Just to, you know, to brighten that area up. I know you had expressed some concerns about the state of the existing Liscombe apple. We are monitoring that. And when we get the other ones up and growing and bearing, you know, we'll take another look at that. But we had it pruned. We're going to prune it again. It's actually okay. It's not thriving there, obviously, but it's the only bearing apple that we have. So we'd like to keep it growing there. And we thought of, you know, doing some planting along that side that we would, you know, get donated with material that would just make it look nicer. But it, you know, part of the key of it is just not so much maintaining it, because, you know, we can water it. I've been watering all around the museum, but you know, just keeping the area out of, you know, the bittersweet and the other kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I think that, I mean, that would be nice. It would be nice to clean that up. We have a few spots like that in town that I'd love to have cleaned up, but I can't necessarily commit to it. So it's great if there's a group who kind of want to, because once it gets done, like I said, I flinch a little, but it is easier to maintain than to do it, to start it. So,
Well,
and if we
you
can
know,
keep the snow away.
I'd promise you a really super low maintenance thing that kind of, if you mulched it and, you know, we'll look after the watering kind of thing. That's all you need to do.
Oh, that would be wonderful. It would look beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, great. Guys, do you have any other questions for our dear Karen while we have her with us? No, we are all out. Well, Karen, I know you have elsewhere to go at 7 o'clock. So thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Keep us posted for the plans, please. We so don't want to get, you know, lose the burial ground thing.
Yeah, no, I understand. And you know, if worst case, we end up maybe doing some of those walks ourselves, which would be, we can do, right? We can always make, stone dust walks can be made. So,
well, you know, one of the things that was really high on our list was making some sort of opening down in the walls on the library side, so that people could access the old burial ground. There's just a broken down stone there along by the library on the corner, Route 30, that is really dangerous and people climb over. And it would be nice so that you could get in and out, you know, and people could walk across it. And, you know, that's what we were hoping to do in terms of some historical markers and stuff. So,
definitely worth looking at some point. So,
okay.
All right, excellent.
We'll roll that all into these discussions with the markers and the trees and the rest of the stuff.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. Sorry, I was late.
No problem. Don't be late again.
All right, have a good night.
Bye. Okay. All righty. Okay. 10 minutes to 7. That went faster. I was hoping to actually see the plans for all that, but it now does not look like this is going through.
That's sad.
Yeah, that's very sad. Okay. All right. Now I see that we have it's Graziele de Souza with us and Jack Riordan, who I think want to step up here and talk to us about 45 Highland Street. So if we could bring, that is next on our agenda, is it not?
Sorry, I brought you in.
Yes. Okay. All righty. All right. Are they with us?
Hello. They should be.
Hi, I can hear you guys.
Okay. Do we have Jack with us? We should have just Graziella and Jack.
I think Jack just needs to unmute.
Okay. Jack, you need to unmute for us. And Graziele, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes.
Could we see you, please?
Yes, I'm trying to figure that out now. It's my first time with Zoom.
Oh, that's okay. There's a little button on the bottom that says Start Video.
Okay.
I sent you an ask.
This is, oh, right here. Uh-huh. Hold on. There we go.
There you are. Hello.
Hello.
Nice to join us. Thank you so much.
Oh, here's Jack.
And there's Jack. Hello, Jack. Oh,
What?
your mute button's on, my friend.
It's, he's unmuted, but it must be a sound issue.
Oh, the sound issue.
Maybe his volume.
Oh,
It's down.
that we heard. Okay. All right, while he's figuring that out, let me just bring up the plans. Okay. Looks like he's still trying to figure that out. Elevation is a former.
Let's see if I can.
Okay. So still trying to work that out. Okay.
Have you looked in your audio settings? It's gonna
Connecting
be-
to audio. Oh, something's happening.
Good, there we go.
What would I give for just a meeting where you could sit across the table? Remember those days? We used to have this lovely Kate would bake. Oh, connected. Now, Jack, you need to unmute yourself, and then I think you'll be with us. Oh, Jack, are you with us? No.
Well, he could chat into the chat.
No, because we have a lot of questions to ask him.
Oh.
He's the actual designer of the reconstruction of this house.
Okay.
So just so I needed to tell everyone what we're here for. So this is the sort of reconstruction of 45 Highland Street, and Mr. Souza is the owner, and Mr. How much is it? Riordan? Riordan. I don't know. We'll have to ask him when we can hear him how that's pronounced. Is the designer of the thing, and there were just a number of questions that we needed to go over with this beforehand. So, Jack, while you figure this out, Mr. Souza, I just before we start with this, I don't think there's going to be any problems getting this permission here today. So I don't think that's going to be a major issue. I would like to talk to you a little bit though about the permitting process, because one of the reasons we'd like to get a better understanding of how you actually got here, because this is actually not in our normal purview. To sort of see what happened with this process, and we've not been getting great clarity from the building commissioner's office about how this all kind of occurred, and so what the process is. So I'd love for you to sort of take us through the kind of what happened here, sort of what constraints you're under and what you're trying to do.
Yeah, so when we bought the house back in August, and we didn't know it was a historical home. So we bought the house, we went to the portal, asked for a demo permit, and we were going to do a rebuild of a Cape style home. And they issued us the permit, and when we tore the second floor down, the hold on one second, let me just close the door. When we tore the second floor down, the studs for on the first floor, they were really bad. The house collapsed. And up until that, we didn't know it was a historical home. So then and then we got a notice from the town saying we went beyond demolition, what we said in our permit. And the town got in contact with us probably a month and a couple weeks, saying it was a historical home. And that's when we got in trouble and had to ask for a special permit. We had to redraw the plans, and we got a stop order. We had to hire a lawyer because of the setbacks of the house. So now we're just trying to work with you guys, since it is a historical home. So we're all on the same page. And it's good that Jack is here, because we're more than willing to work with you guys to match whatever was there before. That's not the problem. We just want to build the house, put it on the market, and sell it as fast as we can, because this is going through, and this is not you guys' problem, but this is going through hard money, and we pay a mortgage on the house every month, and we have 1 year to sell the house. Otherwise, we have to refinance. And the mortgage that we pay right now, it's over $3,500 plus our mortgage, plus whatever we have going on in our lives. So the bills are just piling up. So that we're more than welcome to hear from you guys. Hey, we want it like this. We'll work with you. It's just a matter of building the house and selling it so everyone's satisfied, because I tell you the truth, I can't afford this any much longer.
No, we hear you on that, definitely. So you're not planning to, do you live in Southborough now?
I live 5 minutes. I live in Ashland, right on.
Ashland.
Mhm.
Yes, I love Ashland. So you came into this as an investor, right? You were going to essentially plan to flip the house. Okay.
Mhm, mhm.
So the contractors that you hired, and believe me, I'm asking this just so we understand. I mean, were they licensed contractors? I mean, because I know you had a licensed engineer. I saw that report.
So my husband and I, we have a construction company, and the demo, the frame, we were going to do all ourselves, and we've been doing this for years. For Jack, we've built over. Jack has a subdivision of 30 houses, and we worked for him since 2018. So we know what we're doing. We were planning on subbing out all the stuff that we don't do, and all the stuff that we need someone licensed, for example, a plumber, an electrician, whatever we need a license for, we would sub it out. And whatever we can't do, we would sub it out also.
So, what was confusing to us was that the demo permit seemed to indicate that there was, demo mainly for interior stuff and for the second floor. And it was issued almost simultaneously with this building permit, which seems in conflict with the demo permit.
Oh.
That's the problem, because the building permit didn't trigger the demolition delay bylaw, because it was issued as a building permit rather than a demo permit.
Okay.
So, one of the reasons I'm asking these questions is that we're trying to make sure that this never happens again to anybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because this kind of fell through some major cracks in the system, and you got stuck in a real financial bind, and we lost a historic house. So no one won. And so we want to try to get you out of jeopardy as soon as possible here. Jack, are you with us finally? No.
Oh, he's calling me. Maybe
Okay.
I can pick up and put on speaker.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Hey, Jack, I have you on speaker.
Oh,
Hi, Gardelli. Hi, everybody.
that's good. Put it a little further away.
I'm so sorry for this. Apologize for my ineptitude with regard to the Zoom conference. But I'm happy to answer any of the questions that you have relating to the plans and specifications. I'm aware of the most recent communications from Michael. Hello, Michael. Nice to meet you. So I'm aware that you have some concerns relating to the drawings. You that were interested in the superimposition of the old over the new. You had some questions about specifications, like roofing, siding, trim, front entry, portico, and things of those natures that I had outlined in a letter to Laurie that I think I copied to Michael recently in an email. So hopefully you're in possession of that document.
Yeah, we have that. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So unfortunately, I'm an old dog, so I do all my drawings by hand, pencil and paper. So I wasn't able to do a physical superimposition of the old over the new. I did, however, since I got that request, I did some pencil drawings on tracing paper, which I can provide to your commission. I'd happily do that. I was prepared tonight to at least show those to you as they were superimposed over the proposed sketches. I can say that I feel like they are very close. They obviously, we had concerns about matching the style of the house, which was quite attractive, colonial with a knee wall and a shed dormer. And I don't have to really get into all of the specific terms because you've seen the pictures of the old dwelling. But I feel like I've reproduced it to the best of our ability. We do have some impediments in that we're dealing with new structure and we have new codes. So things like old ceiling height that might have been 7 feet to 4 inches is no longer practical. Well, that's the other aspect of it. We're reproducing a house that somebody's going to live in, so we need to make some physical changes that are sensible in today's marketplace. So I'm happy to just answer any questions, specific ones that you might have about the drawings and the specs. So I'd like to open that to you to do so.
Let me see if I can just share my screen here. Hang on 1 second. Elevations for the front. Oops, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Do you see this front elevation? Where is the other one? Okay, so let me see if I can make this bigger. Oh, that's not fun. I'm not used to using these PDFs here. Let's see, can it just go this way bigger? Yeah, there we go. So this is the proposed reconstruction. This is, oops, save. This is the original house. Can you guys see this picture?
Mm-hmm.
You were with me? Okay. So Jack, since we weren't able to superimpose this, can you tell me just, so what we want to try to do here are just 3 things. We want to make sure that the house is reasonably within scale. So what is your rough estimate in terms of size of this house versus the house that was there? How much out of scale is it given the new, new codes?
I think the 2 changes that are being made are, one, the front dormer is a little wider than the original dormer. So if I had to guess, the original dormer might have been 20 feet wide, and the new dormer is more like 25 feet wide. So as I mentioned, it's a shed dormer. You can tell by looking at the sketch the style that it is. So that's one change. The second change is I think the new building is a bit taller, but I think you can attribute that to 2 facts. One, the old structure was a balloon frame. And if you're familiar with that type of structure, what they would do is they put up the wall, one wall from the foundation up to the roof. And then they would add the floors and nail the floors to that wall. That obviously is not the type of construction that's used now. And one of the things that was affected is the wall height of the new house. So that's going to cause the building to be a little taller than the original. within 2 feet.
Is there a reason that the upstairs dormer is so much bigger than the other?
Well, only because I made it that way. It's not something that couldn't be changed. And if you people feel like you really want it to be shrunk, then that's not going to be a problem. All I was trying to do was utilize the same type of look, but make it a little more practical in terms of living space in those bedrooms. See, the front 2 rooms on the 2nd floor are bedrooms. So I felt that widening that dormer would essentially enlarge the space in the bedrooms.
You know, my feeling is that, you know, kind of that dormer was, you know, part and parcel of that house and they're fitting for the time. And this has been one of my objections sort of from the beginning about, you know, the size of this dormer. So if you guys would be willing to shrink it down to something more resembling, I don't necessarily know if it needs to be exactly that width, but, you know, something a little more resembling that, because, you know, the difference of the current drawing and the old house is that, you know, the dormer is definitely a later addition into this process. And here it looks like it's, you know, built into the house and has a much more modern look. So if you guys would be willing to shrink down that dormer, I think that would be probably the major objection that I would have along the way here.
Sure, I can most certainly change that. It would be, I think it would become in the 20 to 22 foot wide range if we wanted to get it outside of the shutters. So if we wanted to shrink it less than that, we'd have to remove the shutters.
So in terms of these shutters, are these, you know, the original house obviously didn't have any. Are these actually articulated shutters? Are these the shutters that you kind of see that, you know, that we're hoping they're not going to be, which are the kind of vinyl stick up on your house kind of shutters?
Well, that's what they would be. So the most common that we use now are vinyl. They could be either louvered or they could be paneled. But
No, I'm not talking about the fact that they're vinyl. I think that's fine. What I'm talking about is that, you know, they actually, you know, look like real shutters, except you know what I'm talking about. Of course, you can go to Lowe's and buy these things that you know, tack up on your house for $30 a piece that are essentially little black narrow strips. Does the shutter width actually correspond to the half of the window? In other words, is it sized appropriately for the windows?
yes, exactly. The window size is about 30 inches in width, and the shutters are 14 to 15 inches in width. So if you double that, you get an equal number to the size of the window.
Okay, great. And so do they have the appropriate hardware, you know, the little latches and kind of things that one would normally see on something like this?
Sure, I like that. I did not plan that, but that can certainly be added.
My other issue back to November. So you guys want to side this in vinyl?
Yeah, so that's another thing. You know, we're trying to use modern materials, and many of the houses that we build or design are in vinyl wood grain style, 4 inches to the weather, which are essentially simulating the old wood clapboard. I think the only real difference is that you can see seams in those vinyl pieces of vinyl, but when you're looking at a front elevation that really has a lot of windows, it's very low. The vinyl wood grain, 4 inches to the weather, would really look like wood. So I know I don't perceive of that as being an issue, but I leave that up to you. If you know, your commission wants something different, we're all ears.
I personally don't have any issue with the vinyl as long as it's paintable. So the reason I'm asking the question is the difference between vinyl and clapboard in my mind is that, you know, clapboard can be any color and the future owners can change this to whatever relevant color that they think is appropriate. Vinyl has a tendency to lock you into a color that's, you know, kind of historically appropriate for the moment. So my understanding is that this vinyl can be painted should it ever need to be, if people really want to, you know, go that distance.
Yes, I will tell you, we have not painted vinyl, but I can see that happening because, you know, 30 years in, you can see some fading and you lose that real nice color that you had originally. So
Yeah, so yeah, that's my question. I'm gonna throw it out to the commission. You know, originally this house would have been clapboarded, but in the picture that we're seeing, it looks like it has asbestos shingles. Does anyone have any objection to have this not go back to actual clapboard? I'm seeing a lot of shaking faces. No. Okay, so no objections there. You know, the front entrance, you know, I think, you know, we're going to settle on. The final thing would be just, you know, some type of shingle that, you know, the 30-year shingles have a tendency to look sort of flat and very commercial. You know, can we get some sort of shingles there that, you know, this house originally would have had some sort of cedar roof, obviously. Can we get something that is, I don't care what color it is, because that's up to you guys, but just something that has a little more texture to it than the standard 30-year?
yes, do you have any particular manufacturer in mind? Because we do use common 30-year shingles on all of our dwellings, so I have not had any cases where I've deviated from that. But I'm certain.
The only reason I ask is that, as you know, the only difference between a 30-year, a 50-year, and a 100-year shingle is the thickness of the shingle. So, you know, the shadow lines and the material that make it look sort of not like tar are generally better as the shingle width increases. So, you know, across manufacturers, this is kind of the same. So I don't think we would want to dictate that, but I think, you know, we'd like to dictate a roof that is just doesn't look so much like a, you know, flat asphalt roof, that really has some articulation in the shingles.
Okay, sure. Why don't I do this? We typically would specify GAF Timberline HD, which I would assume stands for high def, but that's the name of the shingle. I will contact the manufacturer or my supplier tomorrow and see what they would suggest based on your recommendation. And then we'll report back to you with an actual model.
Okay. You know, finally, my only other question is, in terms of square footage of this house, so the upstairs obviously is a little bigger with the dormer. I mean, is the footprint is exactly the same as we were previously? Obviously the L is bigger, but well, the L was there. So is the footprint the same size?
Yes.
Okay. And you're not envisioning any problems with the fact that this house is built on a giant boulder?
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed that it passes the radon test.
Yeah, have you passed the radon thing?
That would be something that would be done prior to occupancy. So
Oh God.
that one
Okay.
is cold.
Yeah. Just so you guys, my fellow friends, colleagues, you guys probably don't know, but this house was moved down from, this house is actually older than 1870. It was moved down from the corner on Highland. But what's really interesting about it, for whatever reason, they decided to put this house on top of the biggest piece of ledge you've ever seen. So there's no full basement. It's sitting literally on a giant piece of ledge, about 3 feet deep. And it is the most unlikely site of a house you ever possibly imagine. So, you know, very bizarre. And so you guys, so just to be clear, you're fully permitted for this stuff. The septic is a go. Everything is a go. You guys are you're ready to go. You're ready to go.
Yes, we're just looking for your blessing.
I personally have no other questions. Does anyone have any other questions?
This is Jim. Just catch me up on the setbacks. At one point, was the original house very, very close to the lot line?
Yes, and town council ruled that that via some arcane ruling, which I don't exactly remember, that they were allowed to rebuild on exactly this same footprint in the exact same place. It would no longer conform, but they weren't required to go get a special zoning board of appeals.
Okay, good.
So that
good.
was the thing. So that seemed to be ready to go.
All right. Then my only other comment is I really appreciate all the cooperation from both of you on trying to.
Yeah, I would second that.
Yes, I think so as well. So I'd like to consider.
I just have a comment.
Sorry, Annie, but there you are. Hi.
Yeah, I just have a quick comment. So I think the drawings look great. I personally don't have any problem at all with the vinyl clapboard or the 30-year architectural shingles that they've proposed. So I'm looking at the Google Street View of the home before it was demolished, and there seems to be I think a 3-tab asphalt shingle roof there now. So I kind of think it seems like we shouldn't hold them to a stricter standard of, anyone else in town who wanted to replace their roof or their siding. We wouldn't tell someone else they couldn't, put a 30-year architectural shingle on a historic home. I think in my opinion, the spirit of what they're trying to do is, recreate what was there when it was demolished. So I think that what they've presented to us, very well meets that. And I think upgrading a shingle, that could add a lot of cost to their project. So I just wanted to voice my favor of what they've presented.
I hear you. I just will add though that, this is an extraordinary circumstance that we're actually replacing an historic home that shouldn't have been demolished in the first place. So I do think it's fair to, make some of these, small modifications, considering that we're going to be looking at this house for a considerable amount of time. Jack, do you think this is an undue financial burden to upgrade the vinyl? I think we're agreed on. I don't think that's a point of contention. You think this is undue financial burden to upgrade the shingles, at least to get something with a decent shadow line?
No, as much as I appreciate the comment, I think it's doable.
Okay.
If he agrees, then that's wonderful. It'll look great.
Great. So I don't think we have any further questions. And I'd taken a motion to approve this and send it to the building department as approved and ready for construction.
So moved.
So Jack, do I hear a second? Jim. Jim.
And I second it.
And Rebecca. Okay. So Kate.
Yes.
Annie.
Yes.
Rebecca.
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Amanda.
Yes.
And Wyson says yes. So that's 6-0. Ms. D'Souza, you're ready to go. Start construction tomorrow. Don't rip down another historic house in Southborough, please.
I won't. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
You're welcome, Jack. Bye-bye. Okay. Nice people.
Yeah, very nice.
All right. So,
Stop share.
okay. 7. Oh, we're really cranking along here. Okay. Let's stop the screen sharing. Stop share. Right. Next up on our agenda. I just will say also, just for the record, that these folks have been really nice to deal with. I think they got caught in a really miserable trap, which is part and parcel of what we're going to be discussing next, which is the new digest. Oh, actually, sorry, we're going to South Union School. Okay, so I know that we had all sent, even while I was in the penalty box, a letter to the selectmen to the South Union School, saying that we want to have the building preserved. So I thought, okay, this was all set, and then I got an email from Lori Esposito saying, hope you're doing well, blah, blah, blah. I have a question and I hope you can help with. I'm in the process of preparing the RFP for disposition of the South Union Station. I called it that myself. Building pending approval to dispose of an annual town meeting vote. Because the building is on the National Historic Register, which I don't think it actually is. It's proposed, right?
No, it's on it.
It's
No,
on,
it's on
it is actually on there.
It has the
With
plaque
the
on
brass
it.
plaque and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. How did it get on the register? Who nominated? What? Kate
Kate
actually got it on the register? Wow. Okay. I've never actually been in that building, which is
It's
kind of shocking.
It's a great building.
If the purchaser would like to demolish it, what steps beyond our demolition delay bylaw would be required, if any? So I brought this up with Marty today when I talked to him about this. He said, oh, that's not true. I said, well, that's the email I got. So I actually think that we need to send another letter to the Board of Selectmen to say, we are adamantly opposed to any RFP that would call for the demolition of this, that would even consider the demolition of this building. It is on the National Historic Register, and the facade of it needs to be preserved. Because the current language of the Article 24 at town meeting states that disposal of a parcel with certain surplus buildings, nothing else.
I think that might be a misunderstanding, because I was in a couple meetings this week where that building was discussed, and it was referenced that it's on the National Historic Register, and that the facade needs to be maintained, which is why it would be an expense for certain groups. So I think that particular email, it could very well be just an error. Because anything, and one of them was a selectman that did say that they're aware that that needs to be historically preserved.
Well, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world to just send a follow-up communication to the Board of Selectmen saying that we are absolutely insistent that the RFP, because let me explain to you my hesitancy about this. So I was actively involved, as were many of you, on the preservation of Fayetteville Town Hall. And the selectmen were actively and adamantly opposed to putting a preservation restriction in the RFP. Now, we got out of danger by the fact that John Della Pascoli descended from heaven and decided to buy that building, and to actually use it as his office and preserve it. And he will do a smacked up, bang up job. But there was, in the end of the day, there was no insistence on this thing, that this thing be preserved when the RFP went out. It was suggested that this would be the case.
But it wasn't on the National Historic Register.
Well, either way, I mean, I helped write the adaptive reuse bylaw, which this building would fall under, with a distinct purpose of having this building be sold. I am all for it being adaptively reused. However, I am also, I understand it creates the cost factor. And, I had a great conversation with Sam Stivers about this, and about, that it'll knock certain players out of the bidding because of the cost of, the price will be less that the town could sell for because of the restriction. I say that's the price we need to pay as a community to preserve this structure. If frankly, I think that it's such a hot property in terms of, can you imagine that thing as condos, or, who knows what it could be right there by the train station?
Yeah, it could be great.
Well, that's my point, is that nothing that I've heard in all the meetings that I attend has been that building is in anybody's mind for demoing. There are people that are vying to turn it into apartments and things like that. So I fully agree that we should send a letter to the Board of Selectmen and say that, just reiterating that we would like that to ensure, because it's on the National Historic Register, we want to assure that the historical facade is maintained. But I'm just more as an FYI that I've sat in so many meetings and it's been brought up, and not once have I heard reference to it being demoed.
Well, I just have this very, very vivid memory.
More just sold for capital.
Dan Glenda standing up at town meeting and insisting that there's going to be no preservation restriction in the Fayetteville Town Hall RFP. And
I think there's a very different vibe about this building, especially because it's on the National Historic Register, that people have asked for feedback as to whether they could, add on to the back of it or things like that. And so I haven't heard a single thing about it demoing. I'm not saying that, of course, I don't know all. I'm just the message I've heard from a lot of people, selectmen included, is that the interest in selling that building, certainly for the town, instead of the town owning more real estate, but that it's very much on people's radar to convert that building into something else. And even because it's close to the train station, creating, an overlay district through one of the new bills that was just passed by Charlie Baker, different things like that. So just as an FYI, just maybe as a little, I don't feel red flags about that building.
But I might being that Murphy has a way of interjecting sometimes, it wouldn't. I think it'd be a good idea to put for the avoidance of doubt, just
Yes,
for
absolutely.
ambiguity, we want to reinstate that. And by the way, not to send it to BOS, but possibly copy the building department, that they have a heads up on this if they've not already been, and any other, subgroup.
I don't think they would be involved in this, but, because the Board of Selectmen is really in charge of this.
No, I know that, Michael, but at some point, if some developer comes in and buys it, they might want to do whatever, and at least they'd be flagged to not demo it.
Well, I'll CC anyone if it helps. But anyway, so is it the general consensus that we should just send a reinforcing note about this?
Yes, I agree.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
I'll just make one quick comment. I definitely think we should send that note. And I've listened in on quite a few meetings lately too, and I think the idea. So I don't want to disagree with Kate, but I do kind of feel like this is a red flag. I have heard talk of letting someone demolish this. I think the idea that I get from the RFP is that we want to go to town meeting with a proposal, and the town people will want to know what is the maximum amount of money that we can get for this property, and if that doesn't include a restriction. So I've kind of heard the contrary in certain meetings, that's actually kind of a key part of this RFP, and let the town decide, do they want more money for no restriction or less money, including the restriction.
Okay.
And then we do have the demolition delay bylaw, so hopefully whatever developer wins the bid or whatever, they understand that whatever their offer is still contingent upon the demolition delay.
Yeah, and I would second that, because that is exactly what I've heard, that there will be considerable financial pressure because it will be much more lucrative to have the thing without the RFP.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sorry, the Board of Selectmen has not historically been supportive of historic preservation in Southborough. That's just the fact. And I know this is a brand new board, and I know it's a brand new day. Rebecca says, nice noir lighting. This is sepia. It slipped into sepia because the lighting dipped. So I'm now in old movie. But anyway, so I love those people. They're great. They work for us. It's fantastic. I don't think it's a bad idea just to reinforce this, because I certainly would be on the town floor or town field in this case, fighting this every step of the way if this thing were trying to be sold off without.
I almost wonder if we should send the letter to like my Southborough or post it. Like I'm very concerned personally. I feel like it would be such a travesty to lose this beautiful building that's so important to our town. So like however we can get the word out there, I think we should spread it.
Well, yeah, exactly. And so I'm all for that. So let's just let folks know. I'm sure this will be covered as this thing gets forward, and continue to speak up about this. And Annie, I totally agree with you. It's never a done deal in Southborough until it's done.
No. You're not wrong.
Yeah. 30 years ago, I've learned that from 30 years. Every time you think you just get right to the end, it's like something happens. And again, I got to tell you, we have no idea what a privilege we have to have John Della Pascoli have bought Fayetteville Town Hall, because that could have gone south in so many ways. And the light usage that he's proposing using it for his office, with a couple of cars, 5 cars or something, and parking for the kids and the playground and all that stuff. I mean, that's fantastic. So anyway, so
Michael, I'm sorry, I've got my hard stop. Gotta go, guys.
Oh, that's right. Jim has to leave us. So goodbye, Jim. Goodbye. Thank you. Oh, not you.
Oh, he's cute. Oh my gosh.
Ajax. That's Ajax. We don't want to get him started, because if he sees himself on the screen, then he'll really be going. I may have to we may need to take a little pause here. Okay. So, all right, great. So I will entertain a motion to send a letter to the Board of Selectmen reaffirming that there must be a preservation restriction in the RFP, or highly recommending, or whatever we do, at least if they would like our support at town meeting. Okay. Who would like to make that proposal?
So moved.
So moved. I will second that for once. And Annie.
Yes.
Kate.
Yes.
Rebecca.
Yes.
Amanda.
Yes.
And my son says yes, 5-0, off we go. Okay. So new monthly digest policy with Southborough Building Department regarding pre-25 properties potentially subject to the DDBL. Guys, would you be willing to take a little 5-minute break here?
Yes.
Yeah, just a little thing, because I have a little friend here that is going to pee on my leg. So can we just take a 5-minute pause without exception, and we'll be back. It's 7:35, so we'll be back at 7:40. Okay, all right. I'm just going to put us on pause and mute, and I'll be right back. All right. I'm back. Matt is back.
Hello.
So I got my big Coke Slurpee. What do you have there, Amanda?
Seltzer,
Seltzer.
just seltzer. I'm a polar girl.
Polar girl. Well, we know certain people in town that would be very excited about that. You're not a Soda Stream kind of gal?
No, we buy polar seltzer.
Well, I got hooked on Soda Stream, so I'm a Soda Stream kind of guy.
Yeah.
I don't think the cost is much different at the end of the day. It's just the convenience of not having all the bottles
Yeah.
around.
Yeah. We have ties to Worcester, so we're loyal polar people.
Yeah, well, and we've had great help from the polar folks, so we're actually pretty
Yeah.
loyal. All right, so we're waiting for folks back. Any news to report, Annie? Any excitement? No?
Nope, nothing exciting.
No, everyone just waiting to get vaccinated. Time's a ticking. I actually think that most people will be able to go within the next month or so. So
I hope so.
it'll be great. I mean, today the first snowdrops were out. They actually emerged out of a snowbank in full bloom, which was pretty amazing. They were under the snow in
Nice.
full bloom.
Wow.
And the snow melted, and there they were. Not just pushing up, but literally there. It was pretty cool. And I saw the first bat flying over the pond today.
Oh, wow.
So spring is coming. The ducks and geese are laying eggs, and yeah,
Can't open the windows without the screens in anymore, I guess.
yeah, pretty. Yeah, no, those days
I
are
wanna-
coming. Black flies will be
I want a
there.
bat in the house.
My college roommate and I were traveling in southern France one time, and he was from Venezuela, and they have real bats there, and they're and we were staying in this big French chateau place, this inn, this really cool inn in Vézelay, which is, if you ever have a chance to go, I highly recommend. It's this medieval town about 2 hours south of Paris. And staying there, and I opened their big French doors, and I opened the windows. He said, no, open the windows. There'll be bats. There'll be bats. I said, are you crazy? You know, there's not going to be any bats. It's like, you know, when does a bat fly in the house? You know, they're eating bugs and stuff. He said, no, it's like they come in Venezuela. It's like, I said, there's not going to be any bats. Well, he's in his bed on the far end of the room. I'm there reading and the thing, and 10 seconds later, flies in this huge bat. And the guy who's normally, he's big football player type, normally totally placid, is going, there's a bat in the room, there's a bat in the room. And he's under the bed. He's like, get it out, get it out. The entire inn, it was this little like bed and breakfast, like the entire place was up in a second because this bat was flying around the room and it kept flying and flying. Eventually it flew out. Oh my God. So yeah, they do fly in the house. Short answer.
Yeah, we had them in our apartment in Worcester twice, and it's not fun to have them in the house. They're really, it's very unsettling.
Yeah, well, in Great Britain, they're protected. And so, I mean, they're bat inspectors. So and if you've ever had bats actually in a structure, you know that they crap a lot. And they get inside barns and inside structures, and it's illegal to remove them. So if you get bats in your belfry or in your house, you're stuck with them, and you can't remove them. Very, very unpleasant. Anyway, all right, so we're all back. Are we all back? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. Okay. Oh, we're missing Jim. Of course, Jim's gone. Okay, so new monthly digest policy with the South Borough Building Department regarding pre-1925 properties potentially subject to the GGBL. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you. So let me just bring you up to date on sort of what has been going on at the building department. The news is all bad. Jim and I had volunteered to try to help them with their online permitting process, which was, by the way, the cause of this craziness with the D'Souza's. So I'm sharing my screen with you. Do you guys see this?
Yes.
Yep.
Let me go back to this. I'm going to come out right out and say it because I've said it to the selectmen. I'm going to say, and I've said it to Laura Lively herself. This whole process was met by deflection, excuses, and we can't, we won't, we don't know how. And then finally, a huge burst of, tantrum about how this is all badgering and threatening, which she wrote to actually the Board of Selectmen. And this is all after Jim and I have spent 10 hours or more, Jim more than I, working through the problems with this permitting process. So the problem is that this is done on a program called Viewpoint. It's a vaguely open source thing. It's infinitely changeable, but they don't know how to change it, which is fine. They don't necessarily need to know, and we don't have an IT person to change it. But even before, when we did have an IT person to change it, it had huge problems in it. And now that we're doing all this stuff online, it has huge, huge problems in it. So I just wanted to take you through a permit. I did a draft permit here. This is on town application. So I've pulled a permit to demolish the townhouse. And I kid you not. So here we are. So I just fill in some information. It lets me fill in any information. I give any address I want. There's no address verification. I just picked a location. I tried to demolish the museum, as 25 Common, but for some reason that address is not in the database. So I thought, oh, let's demolish the townhouse instead. Now, so you get the data. So I've just said, here, blah, blah, blah. Next. So there's no checking on any of this information. It's all self-reported. So whatever you say is what's entered. So there's no verification process. So if you check it, and if you check any other these other kind of things, you might get more thing. But I'm just going to say it's a residential house and 4 people occupy it, and the occupancy and use is protests. Because you can put in anything you want. So the project info is total elimination of ugly Victorian roof and windows, glass superstructure on new roof. So just redisposal facility. Again, none of this is actually tagged so that you could have any of this stuff dumped anywhere as opposed to a real thing. And this is the most glaring fact, and this is what we were trying to work with them with. You can list any year you want your property is built, and unless they catch this, I can demolish, get a permit to demolish any of your houses, because you don't actually have to be the owner of a property to file a building or demolition permit, which is another really crazy thing, or have the assent of the owner, which is why we were having all these issues with 15 Main and other properties where we were, we didn't have legal representation. So I just decided to say the townhouse was built in 1950. Here are some ultimate values, which of course are not really checked. I claim I'm the property owner. It says, fine, I own the townhouse. Instead of checking the database with the assessors or any of the other type of stuff, doesn't check anything. Now here's interesting too. So type of improvement. Here you can claim it's demolition and it doesn't trigger anything, any other notice. You can just simply say demolition. And I can claim it to be any kind of thing I want it to be. Garage, porch deck, doesn't matter. Let's do porch deck. Okay, next. Use group, don't have to enter any information. Am I the property owner of this building? Yep, I am. And then this is the interesting thing. So Southborough does not differentiate between homeowners and property owners. In other words, people who are going to live in the building and renovate it, or people who bought it as an investment and are going to flip it. And this is a problem because, and this is not our problem, but I'm just telling you that this is a problem. I don't know whether this is a Mass General Law rule, but if you say that you are the homeowner of a property, you get to be exempted from all rules. You're supposed to have OSHA, you're not required. You're supposed to have workman's comp, you're not required. You're supposed to have a licensed contractor, you're not required. So you can claim anything you want. And there again, exemption from all this stuff, you can claim it, you can claim it, you can claim it. So, it goes on and on here. I'm just claiming all sorts of false things. Now, granted, they would probably, existing setbacks, no one knows. I just signed my life away here, blah, blah, blah. Now, obviously, someone's going to catch that this is the townhouse. But if this were a regular house, and I'm just claiming to be the owner, and I'm setting a date on it, the only verification that is on this whole online system is that the owner actually says it's pre-1925. If they say, they can say any year they want. And it would be pretty clear that this would pretty much be granted. So one of the things, so in this back and forth, and I will honestly say, this has actually been the worst week I've ever had on the Historical Commission.
Oh,
yeah, it's just been terrible. I've been battling all these people, and it's like, I don't know. So I said to them, look, this is a real problem that people can enter all this data in any way they want to, and there's no verification of the data, because otherwise it makes our job impossible. How do we know what's being built? There's no definition. We can go back to the very beginning of this. You choose whether it's demolition or building. There's no definition of demolition or building. And you can claim demolition within a building permit and still not have it trigger the demolition delay bylaw. So this whole thing, and this is, I should also say that all of these things could be auto-filled. I mean, they could tap the assessor's list. They can tap all this stuff. This is
the record definitely has all that information.
Yeah, exactly. And at some point, it does actually tap list of contractors, licensed contractors and things. If you are going to, if you say that you're going to use a licensed contractor, it then says, so this can be done. It's just not been done. And there's total, and whenever, we made any suggestion about this, it's like, all you say is negative stuff, Michael. All you say is like negativity. This is, you're not making any positive suggestions. And what we asked for and what really triggered this was the sitemap for this website. Every website has a sitemap, so that when you start on page 1 and you click a button, you go from A to B to Z to D to D to D. I mean, it's a very simple thing. Unless you have that, you don't know. And if you follow these leads, on these maps, oftentimes it gets to 404 pages, or it doesn't know where it is, or it's asking you, is this for a fence? It's like, no, I'm trying to demolish the townhouse. You know, it's just broken. And I don't mind when people say, okay, this is broken and we'd like you to help fix it. I really do mind when people say it's broken, then we try to defend why it's broken. So I wrote to Julianne Lammy, who is the assistant there, and I said, you know, this is a real problem. She writes back to me and says, homeowners are legally allowed to apply for their own building permit. We are not and cannot be in the business of policing intent of homeowners. People lie and they will say whatever they need in order to secure a permit. Not our job. And my response to her was, if this is not your job, whose job is it? Because it's not our job either. And, you know, we pay $141,000 a year to support the building department. And so I just didn't like, I just said, okay, we're going to withdraw from this completely. And what we're going to try to do instead is create a digest, which essentially says, you know, when people apply for these permits, and if, you know, every permit, then the building commissioner's office needs to look up online whether a property is built, not take the homeowner's word for it, but look it up. And if it's going to be like a flow chart kind of thing, you know, is this property before 1925? If so, yes, proceed to B. Is this a permit for siding or windows or doors replacement? If so, no further action required. Is this for roofing or changing or painting? If so, no. If this is for modification of facade, then A. And it'll have all this information. It'll have the assessor's plot. It'll insist on having the owner of record. So we know who is the owner of record and the contact information. Because the other thing is that this whole system captures all the correspondence per permit and per board. So there's no record of it once it's granted. So there's no going back and saying, okay, what were these? Once it's done, it's done. So there's no historical record. So I think that we need to have a digest of our own that says, okay, this is what we're going to be doing. These are the projects that are currently in play. This is the disposition, and we'll just send this file, whether we can do it via Google Files or manually. We're just going to send this file. It'll be a big spreadsheet back and forth twice a month to the building department. And they will fill this stuff out and send it to us. And then we'll act on it, record our actions on it, and send it back to them. Because I do not have, with this system, I do not have any better suggestion to make this work. And now with the building department absolutely resistant to making any of these changes. And give him his credit, Jim tried so hard. Again, this all fell on me. I'm the villain here somehow, but I maybe my frustration showed through, and I'm sorry for that, but this is a huge problem. The building commissioner's office has been responsible for the destruction of 2 historic buildings in the last 8 months. And while they're not directly responsible, this process is certainly responsible. That on Middle Road, they were able to submit all this stuff and not have to understand that there's demolition involved. It's all the fault of this online thing. And I'm just afraid that without some action on our part, we are going to lose another historic structure until this is resolved. Now, hopefully there'll be a new IT director. I've alerted the Board of Selectmen to this problem. I've encouraged them to apply for demolition permits on their own homes so they can actually see, or anyone, their friends' homes, to see sort of what the issues are here. You know, I don't mean to sound glib about this, but I'm really at my wit's end about, trying to figure out a way forward here. And we're not getting any cooperation at all. It's just, we won't, not our job. Not our job. I mean, really? Not our job. I was just stunned when I got this email. So, yeah, so that's it. So I'm going to try to work with Jim, anyone else who wants to contribute on this, and I'll present it to you next meeting, that we'll have this sort of digest system. I think the good news, the silver lining in this that comes out of this for us, is that we will then have a record of all the projects that we've worked on and the disposition of this stuff. And so when we look at the demolition delay bylaw, and when people ask us about it, we can say, this came up, we set it back, just like tonight, right? This came up, we set it back. We have no record of that unless we go back in the meetings. And so I think keeping this digest, which they will have to maintain, it is going to be their responsibility, the building commissioner's office, to maintain this digest and send this to us. No more ad hoc communications, no more sending this stuff to this stupid, viewpoint thing that doesn't, it doesn't do anything. So, yeah, it was a tough week. It was a tough week. And, what I really feel badly about is that the citizens of Southborough are really being very poorly served. I mean, I think this is a huge issue. This has been a known issue now since the fall. How many structures do we have to lose before this, someone pays attention to this? I don't know. So I think if we can do this and try to create a fail-safe system, we'll be well in advance of trying to, make this, something, better. I'm open to any and all suggestions, and questions or whatever. But I mean, I'm sorry Jim has got to leave because he had to leave because he spent a hell of a, excuse my French, a lot more time on this than I did. He sat through endless Zoom meetings with them. Nice people, nice people. I don't have anything wrong with it personally, but I cannot believe that anyone in the town building department would say that it is not our job to verify the information on the permits. There you go.
Well, thank you both for all of your work on this. It definitely sounds really frustrating, and it's so important. I just have a really quick question. Have we explored or, talked to any like nearby towns, I don't know, Westboro, Ashland, whatever, on what their processes are? Are people across the board like struggling with this? Or is it kind of like unique to our building department, do you think?
Well, I am so glad you asked that question because that's exactly what I suggested. I said, this is not inventing the wheel. All the towns around us use a similar sort of system. Let us take a definitive look and talk with the folks around town, around these towns, Westboro, Northborough, not Framingham was probably a little too big, but Hopkinton certainly,
Yeah.
Ashland, and see how they, places with actual demolition delay bylaws, how they actually deal with this issue. Stone silence. Stone silence. This would mean to be, instead of like making all these excuses about how we can't this, and a lot of the excuses where the system will not do this, right? But the system will do it. It's actually designed. I went on the website for this, viewpoint thing, and it's actually designed to be this very open source thing that you can customize anything to it. We just need people that know how to do it. And I'm not saying that it is necessarily the job of the building commissioner to know how to do the programming to do it, but I think it is the responsibility of the building commissioner and department to make sure that they have software that accurately does their job. And this clearly does not. And it fails, as far as, if nothing else, this fails completely the purview of the historical commission. This thing, as it currently stands, you might as well, send a piece of paper by, paper plane and say, oh yeah, whatever.
Michael?
Yes.
What's changed? I remember when my first appointment to the commission, I remember getting regular emails with demo applications, and then we would be at meetings and we would say, oh, this doesn't apply or this does apply. What happened to that process?
That's what I was going to ask, Kate. When did we move over to this?
Well, we moved over to this.
Remember this? So I haven't, we would get those emails, and I think sometimes we were able to resolve it just via email, but then other times we discussed it in meetings, and that really, that seemed to work effectively, because I don't remember any buildings getting torn down that weren't supposed to be torn down.
Well, we had some problems, but not to this level. So what happened after this was, after 45 Highland Street, and I started to make a big fuss with the building department and, Mark Purple about how this could possibly have occurred. Their answer, and I will also say, this is Mark Purple's responsibility. He is the boss of the building department. I have talked to him about this via email countless times. He needs to take control of this issue. what happened was they shifted us to this system, this viewpoint system. First of all, the permitting has always been on this, right? So what it took was a vigilant building department that looked at the assessor's data and looked at the other information. And that has been lacking. Joe was offered the option of doing this. Joe Hubley, our former chair, he absolutely refused, and I now know why. Because it is cranky, it's cantankerous, and it doesn't serve our purposes particularly well. It also pings you every 2 seconds. Every time there's a second, problem with a permit, I mean, with a conservation, with this, with that, another document's been uploaded, it's pinging you all the time. But regardless of that, and this is what I have complained about to them. I said, essentially, this shifts the burden over to us, right? This makes us do all the work. Instead of you alerting us to houses with demolition that are under the bylaw. And I mean, it's not that hard. These houses are built before 1925. And we have this huge gap in town of houses. 1925 was kind of the end of a economic construction period in town, and very little was built here until the 1950s. So there's this huge gap. There's only like 3 houses or 4 properties really built in the 30s and 40s and early until the 50s. So this is a really clear delineation. There's not a lot of overlap. And, I don't know. They shifted us back to this thing. And, the further we got into this, the further we saw that there were all these problems. And unless you're on top of it in the bill, unless you are actually verifying the data in the building commissioner's office, then this is all hearsay. If I can actually pull an application to demolish or alter the townhouse, obviously something is hugely wrong. So, I understand that people lie on these permits. I understand that. But the definition, for instance, between building and demolition is completely obfuscated. Yeah, I mean, it's nowhere in here does any of this actually, be clarified. I don't see anywhere that there's any notice that this information has been then sent out, that we've prepared that PDF that we went over at such length about, sending out. I don't see that that's been done. I don't see this information has been provided. So on this digest that we will construct, there will be these steps. Has applicant received, blah, blah, blah. If no, stop, send, I don't know how else to do this. And I really don't want to take the work to have to do this digest, but I do think in the end, it'll be good for the commission because we will have a record of all these. And I do think I'm going to say successes. I think that is exactly what it is, successes. In the end of the day, over the years that this demolition delay bylaw has been in place, we have saved quite a number of houses. We've guided some owners who were very excited about doing this to a successful thing that even they were happy with. And I think this has been a huge win for the town. But this only works when the building department is functioning. And that's not where we are. So I don't know what else to do, short of getting on my little electric bike and biking around every street in town, trying to monitor what construction's going on. I mean, if it hadn't been for our dear Amanda, we would never have known even about Mill Road. We'd never have known about that. I mean, it's like, oh, I was there. The barn was there one day. The barn's gone, So anyway, as I say, I'm open to anything you guys want to propose. We'll send this digest idea if you think that that's viable, or other issues. You're all looking at me like,
It's just so unfortunate. It hurts that it kind of seems like they don't care.
I think they're very nice people. I just think I think they care. I think that they feel very overwhelmed, and whenever you make these kind of suggestions, they feel very threatened. And there's a lot of acting out about that. And I can't do anything about that. But these are not the only issues. There are other issues that I'm not going to go into with other boards and commissions and problems. So I mean, there are definitely problems there. So, but, we need to protect our own purview. As Marty told me today, stay in your lane. Yeah, it was quite a conversation. Stay in your lane. So I'm going to try to keep us in our lane and get, what we're doing. And I throw this out to you just as a report, really, to tell you where we are on this. And I, as I say, I'm sorry Jim wasn't here to tell you more about his view of the thing, but I think it would have been slightly more sympathetic, but equally frustrating. You're all just looking at me like, okay. All right, well, that's my report. I don't have anything more to tell you on this issue. Anyone have any thoughts they want to express? Annie, thank you for your support. I do appreciate it. It's like, I was literally almost at the point of tears at one point this week. It's like, what are you people talking about?
I don't really understand. I know they need a new IT person, but I don't understand what the inhibitor is to improving the software in the many ways that it could be improved to make everyone's job easier and more accurate. I don't understand why there's a resistance to that idea.
Well, I don't think there's a resistance to it. They keep saying they're not IT people, which is true. They're not IT people. That being said, the flaws in this system are pretty obvious. And, what they have been willing to do, and I give them credit for this, is make these ad hoc changes. But if you don't actually have a site map of your whole site, making these changes causes a cascade down the whole site. So that's why we have questions about demolition in the building permit, like 7 pages down, that really shouldn't have been there. I mean, it needs to be if A, then B, then C. And yes, we do need a new IT person, but this system, as far as I can tell, has been in place and online for years with this sort of broken mechanism. And it's only been the grace of God that we haven't lost more historic structures. And I cannot guarantee you that we will not lose more in the interim until this gets fixed. I mean, at the very least, this thing should pull from an Excel spreadsheet that the assessor's office can provide that lists every property and parcel and the date it was constructed. That information,
autofill that.
Autofill. I mean, there's no question about this. This gets us out of every single problem. Well, not every single, but
they would want that to be the case.
Yes.
Well, they've said they've asked many times for this to be done, and I believe that they have.
Okay.
And again, I have no problem with people saying, yeah, this is really broken. We agree with you. I have problem with people saying, yeah, this is broken, and here's all the reasons why we can't do this and why you're bad for trying to help. I mean, that's my problem. Maybe that's my personal overreaction to the thing, but I just felt I've just wasted 20 hours of my own time when I could actually be pursuing my own business and earning money, trying to fix the broken process of a town department, and that we pay people a lot of money to maintain. But the cracker was, telling me it's not our job. That was the cracker. That was the breaking point for me. Not our job. We don't have to verify this information. People lie, and that's just the standard way about it. Well, then there have to be enough questions that we can trap people.
At all.
Well, I mean, Rebecca, you said this. I hope I don't mind me quoting you, but said, why not just get a vending machine and put it up in town hall and say, okay, hey, you want a demolition permit? Press button A3, deposit $5. Hey.
I don't see the point of having. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know.
I don't either. And
it's a lot of
the
work on
manual
both
system
ends.
obviously worked better when we would get. Obviously, they must have verified dates previously when we would get the scans of the demo.
Well, because they were on paper, Kate. They were then on paper and people would look at them. But now everyone can input anything. And
it's shocking that worked better than the program now.
It's not shocking to me because this thing is so convoluted. And what they get then is a 23-page report with all this, blah, 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 I've signed up and this and that, as opposed to the simple single form, which was the starting process of this previously, saying, I want a permit to do this. This is the property. This is the age. And they would look at the single sheet and say, wow, that doesn't seem right. Or who are you? And I think this has been magnified by COVID. that people are applying all this stuff online, but this online is not going away. This is going to be the part and parcel of the future. No one's going to the building department again to pull permits. So this needs to be fixed. In the meantime, we need to put in some systems in place to make sure that, whatever is, going on is going on. I'm sure the building department commissioner will be hugely unhappy when she hears this tape. Sorry, we tried to help you, couldn't. So that's it for that. Next up here. Oh Lord, where's mine? I keep losing my agenda. I think housekeeping is next up, isn't it? Yep, there we go. Now it's time for all you happy folks to tell us happy things. Happy things, happy things. Hooray! Okay, housekeeping. Hooray, here we go. Budget. Kate, you're up.
Me, okay. I did get a request from the town accountant this week to just let her know what we spend on our water bill, because I guess advisory is considering taking on that bill. So
well, that would be
who knows,
great.
maybe we won't have to pay that. It's only about $130, but still.
Well, it is a little crazy that town departments have to pay their own water bill.
It
I mean,
is.
that just seems a little bonkers. Yep. Okay.
It is. So it's not official. It's just that I provided that info. So who knows, maybe we'll gain about $130 to go wild with.
Whoa.
I know. Then thinking about the sign program that I sort of run. Michael, I talked with our artisan, and so maybe you and I can talk. He's happy to provide a template for us for the sign on the exterior of the building. Is it attached from the front to the posts at the back? Like, is it screwed on through the front? Do you know? I can't remember, but I said I'd go look. Oh, you're muted. Michael, you're muted.
Sorry. Yes, it could be anything you want. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's attached, it's screwed through the front.
Okay.
But
But
it could
he
be hung
would
anywhere.
like to know, like, what do we want it to actually say? Do we have, a shape preference? And then he'll send us a template plus an estimate. So maybe you and I can talk about that if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any preference. Maybe
Well, you had said that you wanted to change the name from like the Historical Museum and Archives or something like that.
Well, it currently says Southborough Historical Museum, and I've long
Right.
advocated that it should be Southborough Archives and Museum.
Yes.
And maybe in small letters, home of the Southborough, Historical Society and Historical Commission or something. What would be really cool is if he could just send us, without actually, drawing this out, just some sort of shape templates. And then we could throw it out to the folks at the next meeting here and just say what people like. Get the Historical Society folks involved too. Actually, Historical Society, because society's going to pay for it. Yeah, and so just see.
Do we have to get it approved by anybody?
I don't know. It's a building
You
commissioner.
might need to have a permit for it.
It's a.
Well, no, it's planning board. I can talk to the planning board about
No,
it.
it's the building commissioner.
Under signs.
It's under signs.
It is under signs.
I think because it's a town sign, it may be exempt. I got to tell you, I'm not going to the building commissioner's office ever again. So I'm going to have to, Jim had been our nominated deputy. So I think he's had enough too. So one of the other of you guys are going to have to take this up. Yeah, it's a building commissioner issue. However,
I can add.
We're grandfathered in
answer
because the sign is there as the sign size, so the size should be the same because I don't think we want to
Right.
replace the posts and stuff. What I do want to avoid are those crazy oval, deeply engraved signs that the town has, for all its buildings and things like at the DPW and things where they're so deep and incised and gilded that you can't read them ever.
I don't think he tends to do that. I think he hand paints everything.
Yeah, I mean, it should just be a simple flat sign. I just, I don't want to go overboard with it.
Well, if you like the sort of the style of the signs that he hand paints.
I
think
love
it
the
would-
sign. I mean, what do you guys think? I love that sort of old fashioned kind of thing.
I do too. I think they're lovely. So I'll have him do a template, and then I'd love for you also, Michael, to help me. Thank you for the feedback on 19 Gilmore. She was delighted with the name of the sign. And then I would love to go forward and consider a template of the more biographical narrative, whatever we want to call it, sign. And I think her house would be such a great template for that, where, it just provides a little bit of detail about it. And I talked with her a little bit about it, and she thought that sounded so great, in particular about her house. Likewise, before I do anything, of course, I just thought maybe we could come up with a blurb or two about her house, have Bob do a template for us on that, and then show it to the commission maybe at our next meeting.
Yeah, I think that sounds fun. It's particularly, the house is probably one of the more interesting histories of any house in Southborough.
Yeah.
It picks up every little bit. I mean, it's the birthplace of Joseph Burnett. It was the side house, the sister house to the larger Garrison house next door when they were part of the families, because the Burnetts married into that family, so they built them that little house. Then, when Werner Oland lived in it, it was part of a 100 or 50 acre farm, part of the sort of gentleman's farm movement. Yeah, I mean, it's all such a just really fascinating stuff. And surprisingly, this society gets probably 2 or 3 queries a year of people wanting to know where that house is regarding, Oland was the actor for Charlie Chan, by the way.
Right. Yeah, she has said all that to me. So since you know so much about that house, maybe you'd like to just email me a small blurb about it that I could use for the template.
I see. Well, the owner might be interested to know at some point to come into that. We have the previous owners actually wrote up a fairly detailed history of that house and conversations back. So we have the society, we have quite a file on sort of interesting recollections of the previous owner. So if she's interested, or he or whoever is the owner, we're happy to share that information with him. By the way, I got no responses to that post we did on the Historical Society about send us your house history. So, and I didn't get anything from any of you either, all of you who live in fairly historic homes. So,
Didn't even think about it.
yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Charity starts at home.
Mine's not very interesting. I mean, I don't really have a whole
we don't
lot.
care. I mean, who knows what's interesting about your house if you haven't investigated the history of it.
I don't know if I saw that post. Where was it? Was it social media? Was it?
I know,
Myself.
way back when I shared the whole history of my house, because I had wonderful conversations with the previous owners that I met when they were in their 80s. One time when we were doing renovations, they came by and they were so thrilled. And then and the year before he died, we had this whole extended correspondence back and forth with him, sharing pictures and memories and stuff. And I posted that up online. It's I think
On the Historic Society.
Yeah,
I think it might have been the post may have been called Kindness of Strangers.
Okay. Well, we have a lot of house history, not necessarily from, really historic times, but, from when it was a recording studio. We've done a lot of research on it. So we'd love to share.
Yeah, well, the idea was that we would, have just archive all that information for future owners. So anything you know about your house that people, because I remember I had to start from complete scratch.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so nice not to have to start from scratch, because then you can find other missing data.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so yeah, so please, even if it's basic information or supposition or anything, just send us the stuff and we'll start building these files. Rebecca, you look like you're about to, this is getting past your bedtime, I know.
It is.
it's been a long day.
Oh yeah, well, you should have had my day, I tell you. Want to trade? Anyway, so yeah, okay, so that's great. Let's do that. So send us that information. We'll get that started. I'd love to publicize that. And Kate, yes, I'll talk to you more about the narrative of that.
And I'll get Bob working on stuff.
Okay.
And he was really delighted about the exterior sign too. So I'll get working on that. If you can help me with a little blurb about
so I just will say also, though, if you want to get a head start, the little blurb is actually in the listing for the house online on the historical
okay.
Society website. You know,
Right, I'll just-
you read down that little thing, you know,
Sure.
she actually says all that. And
On Macros?
no, forget Macros. You know, on the Historical Society, we have a listing by street of all the
Oh,
houses
okay.
on the thing, and we have the pictures and stuff. It's much easier to use. So just Google 19
Got it.
or just look
All
for
right,
19.
I'll do that. That's
Uh,
fine. I'll do that. I can do that on my own just to get the template going and
Yeah, would be great.
get cracking
like-
on that.
Nothing like what is it called? I'm so tired. It's like not delineating when you move off jobs to other people. Come on, guys.
Oh, delegating,
There you go. I know.
delegating. I know, I'm exhausted myself.
Okay.
All right, but I have to talk about the master plan now.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Sorry.
Not. Okay.
But I know I had a meeting with them last night and I was last night, I think it was last night. And I at least was able to say, we haven't had a meeting yet. We just want to make sure that we have our info in it. I said that officially we want, you know, our accomplishments listed as the demo delay bylaw and the adaptive reuse bylaw. But then it was just about, we need to make edits to our sort of goals and recommendations sheet, unless we want to vote on just keeping what Michael had sent out the last time.
Well, that's what I actually thought we were going to do. I thought that
Great.
was kind of our end, and that, you know,
Yep.
the only reason that we didn't do it the last time was that we wanted to make sure that we weren't violating open meeting law. So everyone saw that the last time around. Are you guys all cool with that?
Mhm.
All right.
I think it's great. Yeah.
Okay. What's the, I really am going to talk. Do we need to take a vote on that? Yeah, let's take a vote.
We do.
Annie,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
Amanda, Wyson, yes, 5-0 approved.
Great.
Okay.
Was there even a motion?
Okay. All right. Motion. That's what I can actually make the motion on small matters like this. I can make the motion, and I can. You can actually move without motion and seconds for small things. So I think we're
Okay.
It's just a motion to approve the goals for the master plan update, Dean, for you.
yes, exactly.
I have sympathy for what he's doing right now.
Oh, he is so fantastic.
I'm gonna give him all my jobs if he wants them.
I don't see him volunteering.
No.
Shaking his head. No.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you done? You're out of the game, right?
I think my job is done now. Look
Okay.
at that.
What about our budget for next year?
I haven't heard anything yet. As
Well,
soon
have
as
we
I
put in-
do.
Have we put in for the increase since we can't seem to
Oh, yeah,
get?
I put in for the increase back in like November.
That's fine, because I'm sure that we'll hear
I
from.
thought the increase was approved.
No, nothing's been approved yet.
No.
And I will get a call from advisory. They will, you know,
Well, so my husband's on advisory, and I thought he told me it was approved, but maybe I misheard him. So I don't know.
well, maybe it was.
But we haven't heard officially. I haven't heard anything official.
Okay, nothing's been officially communicated. Okay, so then forget I said that.
And I think the Board of Selectmen then has to approve that, don't they?
No idea how that goes. Generally, though, when they call me and ask
But I
me
don't know.
for, for any questions about, Kathy calls me and said, we'd like you to appear.
Well, I did that. Remember, I went and appeared in front of them in November and sort of went through all the specifics, like literally down to the stamps that I know that I tend to use.
Oh, okay.
So,
That's how that
I-
happened. Okay, I got it. I'd forgotten that you'd gone. That seemed, my.
Yeah, as treasurer, I appeared before them, so
Well, then maybe it was approved. So let's hope.
it might have.
Andrew just popped his head in and said that advisory has approved the budget. I don't know if that means it's officially approved, but so be it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know either, but
That's fine. Okay. Annie, do you have anything to report from CPC?
I do, yes. So we actually had a meeting last night, and it was quite a bit of deliberation. We're making progress towards, finalizing everything for town meeting. You know, all of the articles from last year and the new ones from this year are, you know, are moving forward. So where we kind of got caught up last night was on the townhouse project. So just a quick update with where that is. So basically, we do have funding to fund 100% of the project, which is $2.2 million between bonding and using some of our reserve funds. There seems to be some you know, non-consensus among the CPC members of if that's the right thing to do, is to fund 100% and deplete a lot of our resources for future projects in the near future. So we actually didn't take a vote on the townhouse. That's kind of the last outstanding thing. We decided to schedule a separate meeting next week where we plan to talk about the project and take a final vote on what we are going to recommend to town meeting in terms of financing that project. We're inviting the chair of the capital planning committee to that meeting to talk through some of the funding options. And I wanted to present this to the committee or our commission. If anyone's available next Thursday at 7 o'clock and is interested and willing to come and, you know, just show support for the townhouse project, you know, clearly this is something that, you know, we all, you know, really support. It's the work needs to be done. The building is, you know, one of our prized historic structures in town, you know, maybe one of the most important structures in town. So I think the more support that we can show, the better. I think my voice may have been in the minority last night. And you know, I'm quite honestly a little concerned that the project either will be scaled back or the timeline will be changed if it doesn't go through 100%. So just putting that out there that, you know, we're making progress. We still have one big vote left. And if anyone's available next Thursday at 7, the more support we can have from historical, the better.
Annie, can you ping us a calendar invite for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that way I'll, you know, be on my calendar. I'll try to attend that.
And absolutely no pressure. No pressure at all. I just think the more voices we have, the better.
But the question is about not the project itself, about whether to actually bond it or fund it out of current receipts. Is that the issue?
So it is. So there's a couple things. There's how many years to bond it over. And so basically how the math works is we can bond $2.2 million over 25 years and cover it completely from our bonding capacity. If we look at a 20-year bond, we can only fund $2,030,000. But then we need the extra 170,000 from our cash reserved, our budgeted reserves. And then there's some discussion on whether we should even, you know, as a community preservation committee, recommend that we fund 100% of the project anyway. You know, there's still some questions on maintenance versus preservation. You know, really, in my view, you know, a lot of historical preservation is deferred maintenance. And so I think there's just there's some disagreement within the committee on what's the right thing to do. And we were deliberating so much last night and needed some, you know, additional input from, you know, from other people in the town before we could make an informed vote. Does that answer your question, Michael?
Yes, it does. Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, you know,
Okay.
the problem over there has been consistently this argument about maintenance versus preservation.
Right.
And to my mind, that is a non-existing question.
Yeah.
Maintenance is preservation.
We had Lynn Spencer, who's, you know, very well, you know, well knowledge, you know, flat out say, yes, it meets the criteria to use CPA funds on every aspect of the project. So I agree.
You know, I guess, you know, basically it's a budget shifting kind of thing. It's like, okay, so then really they want to fund it out of, you know, the capital funding and get a line item on the, you know, town meeting thing. I actually kind of agree in the sense that I think the town should be more responsive about taking these things. We've started to shift a lot of stuff onto the CPC that are, big town expenses. And those things should go on the tax rolls and be, funded as direct line items. I mean, if we can build that palace to the police, which we did to the tune of what, $21 million, we can certainly fund this kind of, these kind of things, with the townhouse and other things. So I understand that argument. In this particular case, though, it gets caught up in the maintenance. It's like, anything on a historic building is preservation. You paint it, it's preservation. It's just that definition doesn't apply. I don't know whether the hang up there is like something CPC related or whether it's just a hang up over these definitions. But I've noticed that came up even with our little museum thing about maintenance.
Right.
So,
I have to be totally transparent. I'm not that familiar with, all the CPC regulations. I'm still learning a lot of this. And so, I try to speak to it, but I think some more seasoned voices during, public comment next week would go a long way.
Okay, so
if that makes sense.
Happy to try to weigh in on that. Thank you for that, and thank you for being part of the CPC. I mean, that is really very valuable.
Thanks for taking that on, Annie.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
You're doing a great job. You're doing a really great job. I mean, it's so valuable, and it's so valuable that we actually, fulfill our seat there. I know it was vacant for a long time, and then Kate had it, and then she was unable to. It's a great thing. So we really super appreciate the work you're doing there. So
Absolutely.
Bravo to you. Okay, I do actually have one other thing briefly. I was contacted by the St. Mark's people, and they would like to write us a letter supporting them again, which we've already taken a vote on, for further funding. I guess there's some other state fund that they want to try to apply to. This is coming up in front of town meeting. This is another CPC issue. Annie, has that been approved? I mean, is CPC like kosher with that whole St. Mark's Tower, bell tower thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's again, we've had a lot of deliberation on that one, but we have voted to recommend their application to town meeting. So that's actually a carryover from last year. So I wasn't necessarily involved in the bulk of the discussions, but it's been recommended that the bell tower and the calendar field that were kind of tabled last year, we bring back this year. So yeah, there's different people on the committee now, but we haven't changed the position on that.
They had requested to appear before us because they're asking for a very ardent and vocal support at town meeting. I suggested to them that appearing closer to town meeting would be probably more appropriate. I think this is going to have huge opposition for people saying as to why we're choosing one thing after another. I know exactly why, and I will be for it, but I can just see this is going to be a hard float. So I will probably put them on the agenda for either the next meeting or the next meeting after that to come talk to us again about, I will say they've got their ducks lined up perfectly in a row. They have other sites that have done exactly this, other towns who've done exactly the same kind of thing. They've had, it's like bing, 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 one of the best organized presentations I've seen in a long time. So we'll put them on and to have them come and say hello to us. Kate, are you just scratching your head, or do you want to say something?
No, I was just scratching my head. Sorry.
I wasn't quite sure. It's like, okay. Okay.
No, sorry. No, you'd know if I wanted to say something.
Yeah, I know you. I think we're a couple of months from seeing each other again. I am so looking forward to hugging all of you. I just want a big bear hug. Okay. Schedule for upcoming meetings.
Oh, wait, Michael.
That's right. What, Annie?
Oh, I just said some of you I've never met in person.
I know. It's like you've never even seen us. Okay. So
cute in real life.
Okay, I'm sorry. Who? Oh, hello, Rebecca. Yes, hello.
I have one thing to report on regarding the National Register Historic District. Neil Larson was located. I got an email from Betsy Friedberg at MSC or MHC about a month ago. And she said that he has returned the nomination, having addressed comments he felt he could answer. We have not yet had a chance to look at it closely, but we will be doing that soon. And then we will see what additional work, if any, is needed. I do expect that the nomination will move forward later this year.
Great.
Hallelujah.
Great.
Now, I don't
Great.
know what that means exactly, moving forward.
But hey, it's positive. We're moving
Oh,
in the
I
right
know what it
direction.
means. It means they have to come and have another huge meeting here and meet with the selectmen, and it's just like, oh.
Come on, let's be more positive.
At least
we need to channel.
forward.
We need Kate Madison to descend from heaven and to give us energy on this, because this was her baby. I keep going, Kate, how did you get us into this? It's like it's going on forever. Anyway, Miss Kate, we miss Kate. Have we ever proceeded on having anything about naming something for her at the museum? Whatever happened to that?
It stalled, frankly, because it was an unclear process to me. And
I think what we should do is just, the society can like name a table or something. I mean, I think we could do some private memorial that's not officially part of the building, something that we own. We'll figure it out. But I do think that we need to
Put a nice plaque on the big, beautiful conference table or something.
Yeah, something that's ours and that we can delineate, without, because I think the whole thing is about naming an official room in the building. I don't know, we'll check with that, make sure that we're not violating any huge town rules about that. Heaven knows I don't want to be.
Stay in your lane, Michael.
Yeah, exactly. Stay in my lane. My lane. Okay, reports from commissioners and other news. Don't tell me there's any news, because we all want to go. There's no more news. Okay. I think that's great. We just need to set some dates here before we go. If you guys don't mind, these Thursdays are so much easier to schedule because there's so much less traffic in other town boards and commissions. Maybe we could change, when this is not remote. But does Thursdays work?
Yeah, fine.
Fine. So where are we? We're on the 11th. So how about Thursday, April 8th?
Go ahead, open. It's fine by me.
Fine. Or the 15th, I think doesn't matter.
8th works for me.
Okay. I don't think there's a lot on our agenda. I did ask, and of course I got absolute radio silence from the building commissioner's office to transfer anything that was currently on the viewpoint system over to us in real form, paper form, so that we could know what's hanging out there. I don't think there is. I'll check again. Maybe we'll send Jim over. They seem to love Jim. Let's see. My God, I can't believe we're in May already. May 13th.
We're not in May. We're just scheduling things in May.
No, but I mean, it's the next thing over. We'd already did April. We did April. I mean, it's 2 months away. How about May 13th?
Yeah, that works.
Let me look.
Okay.
Yep.
Anyway, is everyone good on that?
Yep.
June 10th or 17th?
Oh my goodness, we're really going here. What was that?
June 10th or 17th?
At this point, you can have either of them.
Okay, let's take the 17th. July 15th.
I'm not available. No.
I'm going to Monaco. I'd like to know when we can get on planes again and fly somewhere. That would really be nice. Okay. The reason I'm going this far is that one of the things, because we're in front of these legal issues like DDBL and all this stuff, people need to know when we're actually meeting in advance. So I'm just going to keep going here.
Okay.
We can change this stuff.
Day for July? What was the day for July?
15th. Dean will send us out memos on all this stuff. So in case you forget about this. So July 15th, August 19th,
Sure.
September
Well,
16th.
sure.
Yeah, sure, whatever, right?
Yeah, I don't care. Yep.
Yeah, sure. I'm locked in my house. What the hell do I care? Teaching my kids. By then I think you should be back in school. October, let's see. When is 11th is, how about October 14th? And this brings up, I am cautiously optimistic that we will be able to do something for around Heritage Day for some sort of fancy flea thing for the society and for the commission. And I'm also cautiously optimistic that we might be able to do something Christmas related this year, because if the Biden plan for the vaccination goes, they keep saying that any adult can be done by May, and that high school or grade school students will be done by the fall. So I think if you have a fully vaccinated population and things don't go out of control, I don't know if it's going to be the full Monty. One thing is that the marathon is actually being run on the 11th this year on Columbus Day. So our dear Sally will not be around to help us with all that stuff. So, and I don't know whether they're going to even try to do Heritage Day. So we might want to try to think about doing some antique kind of thing with the society in October somewhere. I have a feeling that it would be hugely well met. I mean, just for pure desperation of like, finally we're free. So let's think about that.
I love the idea of a Christmas thing too. You know, when the gentleman was talking about at our last meeting about the events he plans to host in, you know, at the, what's it called?
Oh,
The Brick
JDP,
House.
yeah.
Yeah, that was so inspiring, and I can't wait to do stuff like that again.
Same.
I just want to drink in that bloody bar. It was going to eventually be an open pub downstairs that, you know, the residents could come into, and it's like, whoa, no more pub. Oh God, because I don't know if you've ever been, you probably, Annie, have never been down there. The thing has these huge brick, huge, like full 1.5-story barrel vaults that the whole house sits on. It's pretty amazing. Okay, back to this November. Let's try to do the 11th before Thanksgiving sets in. That's also a Veterans Day, I believe, which should be okay. And then
Dean is saying no.
No, we can't do the 11th. It's not a Veterans Day, or we can't do the 11th.
That's Veterans Day.
It's Veterans Day, yes.
That's fine. I think we can meet on Veterans Day.
I won't be there then.
Oh, you won't be there then. Okay, well, that's fine. How about the 18th? 18th? Okay. And December, which will be our Christmas party, on the 16th.
Okay.
Meeting and Christmas party at the museum.
I'm gonna plan my outfit right now.
Yeah, I will even wear a Santa suit. And frankly, I've gotten fat enough to pull it off. So
hey, that's recorded now. You're on record now.
Yeah, I know. I just realized that. I keep forgetting this thing's going up on YouTube. I didn't actually say that. This is my ugly sepia twin talking. Yeah. Okay, so that's it through 2021. That's as far as we need to go. Obviously, we can move those dates if we have any problems. But that's all pledged out, and we can publicize that. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I have nothing for you. And so without objection, I will move to adjourn unless anyone has anything more they would like to add other than good night.
I second that motion.
You don't have to, because it's without objection, but I'll take that second, third it myself. Good night, all. And thank you once again. I really, really want to say thank you again, as I try to do, because, you know, a lot of work goes into this. You guys are really fantastic. I love being with you. I actually kind of look forward to these meetings as much as I hate the subject matter sometimes. And so thank you so much. You all do such a great job. So hope to see you. Be healthy, get vaccinated, and we'll see you back